Chapter 1568. Jinshin was in low spirits, while Yang Lai, Guihai Dao, and Feng Shaotian were overjoyed. Now that the seal had shattered, there was nothing that could stop them from breaking through to the origin realm. Although the origin energy of this world had yet to recover, it was definitely not a problem for the three of them, because they had left behind origin energy in their saint artifacts when they reincarnated. Aside from them, even the holy emperors of the protector clans were unable to use the origin energy within the saint artifacts. If they used the origin energy they had left behind to cultivate, they would be able to reach the origin realm very quickly. Aside from the three of them, many of the holy emperors of the four races were extremely excited as well. The destruction of the seal had allowed all of them to see the path to the origin realm. Even though it was impossible for them to reach the origin realm by absorbing the energy of the world due to the lack of origin energy in this world, at the very least, they had seen some hope of reaching a higher level of cultivation. They would not be stuck at the level of a holy emperor for the rest of their lives until they passed away. In the forbidden grounds of the city lord's estate in Flame City, the spacious area was always deathly silent. The hustle and bustle of Flame City were unable to reach here. Even the guards patrolling the city lord's estate avoided this place, making it seem like a completely different world from the outside world. There was only a pure white divine hall that stood silently in the quiet backyard. It shone with a faint silver-white light, just like the radiance of the moon. Fairy Haoyu's illusionary figure sat on a jade bed in the bright moon divine hall. The moment the powerful formation in the air shattered, her eyes suddenly snapped open. She raised her head and gazed at the sky. Her gaze seemed to be able to pierce through the obstruction of the bright moon divine hall, allowing her to see everything that was happening outside. She really has left. She left much sooner than I expected. Now that the tunnel to the Saint's world has been opened, I can leave as well. Once I reach the Saint's world, I'll be able to use a secret technique to recover my body very quickly, Fairy Haoyu murmured to herself. The light in her eyes flickered with eagerness. She had already been trapped here for a very long time. She was extremely eager to return to the Saint's world and tell her father about an potion scheme. Although she thought about that, Fairy Haoyu did not move immediately. She murmured, "In my current state, returning to the Saint's world alone will be extremely difficult. Even if I pass through the tunnel, I'll have to pay a huge price. I might even lose the power to protect myself. Once I lose the power to protect myself, I'll probably die before I can even make it back to the Moon God Hall. I've already waited for so many years, so a few more decades won't matter. Jinshin doesn't have much time left in this world, so I'll just wait for him for a few more decades. If he dies to the hands of those people who seem to be spirit sages in a few decades, I'll have to wait for him. Then I'll have to find someone else to work with." Fairy Haoyu did not place much importance on Jinshin's life or death. She had accepted Yu as her disciple out of respect for Jinshin, and she had even assisted Jinshin when he was trapped in the Protector Clan's Chanyang Prefecture. Her ultimate goal was to prevent Jinshin from dying so that she could go to the Saint's world through Jinshin in the future. Fairy Haoyu did not place any importance on the Protector Clan's Chanyang Prefecture. As a result, she had helped Jinshin out without any hesitation. It was as easy as lifting a finger for her. However, Fairy Haoyu feared the Forsaken Saints who might be spirit sages very much. She could not afford to offend them. She did not have a particularly deep friendship with Jinshin. As a matter of fact, they could not even be considered as friends. It was only a cooperative relationship. Outer space gradually calmed down as the tunnel to the Saint's world rapidly closed. The Ice Goddess Hall had left through the tunnel. From today onwards, the mysterious organization known as the Ice Goddess Hall no longer existed on the Tianyuan continent. However, just when the tunnel to the Saint's world was about to close, two figures suddenly shot out of the death nest. They shot out of the Tianyuan continent like arrows and flew toward the tunnel that was about to close. A gleam of light immediately flashed through Jinshin's eyes when he saw the two figures. He immediately dismissed his thoughts and coldly said, "It's Kaiser and Lank heroes from the Beast God continent. It looks like the two of them actually want to go to the Saint's world. White Tiger, it's time for your revenge." The white tiger reverted to his magical beast form. His eyes shone with a vicious light as heavy killing intent radiated from them. With a deafening roar, he vanished with a single leap. When he reappeared, he had crossed an extremely great distance and appeared in outer space, right in front of Kaiser and Lankiros. Compared to the past, Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor seemed to have become much more haggard. They were no longer as dignified as before. When they saw the white tiger suddenly block their path, their faces changed drastically. Without any hesitation, the two of them immediately split up. They wanted to make their way around the white tiger and enter the tunnel of the Saint's world from the left and right. The white tiger had reached the origin realm, so Kaiser and Lankiros gave up on resisting. They chose to flee without any hesitation. However, how could the white tiger allow the two of them to enter the tunnel to the Saint's world? With a deep, furious roar, the Seiyuu on his back gently shuddered. Two strands of force of slaughter immediately shot out, turning into two blades that chased after the two of them. Spurt! Spurt! The heavenly blade formed from the power of slaughter mercilessly cut off the heads of the king and the tiger monarch. The two monarchs of the beast race, who had been emperors for many years, were unable to withstand a single blow from the little white tiger. They were as weak as ants. The white tiger imprisoned Kaiser and the tiger emperor's heads and sealed their souls. He brought the heads back to the beast god hall on the beast god continent. His mother, Rum Guinness, was still in the beast god hall. He wanted to execute Kaiser and the tiger emperor in front of his mother. Chapter 1569. No one sympathized with the fate of the two former rulers of the beast god continent, nor did anyone beg for mercy. Even the holy emperor of the Peng clan, Sangxiong, only watched on silently as he sighed inside. The seal has completely vanished. I can't feel the pressure in my soul anymore. We can break through right now. Guihai Dao's eyes were filled with excitement. He had become rather eager. It's a pity that Chanyang Minghua left with the Ice Goddess Hall. Although I haven't known her for a long time, I know that she's not someone who would run away in the face of danger. She definitely didn't leave with the Ice Goddess Hall willingly. She must have been forcefully taken away by Protector Shui. We're missing an expert at the Returnance Realm right now. If the Spirit King attacks the Divine Hall again, it'll be even more difficult for us to maintain the Divine Hall suppression. As a result, we need to break through as soon as possible. However, to prevent us from affecting the Divine Hall, we can only have two people break through at the same time, said Yang Lai. He was also rather eager. If it were not for the powerful sealing formation in this world, the three of them would have broken through to the origin realm long ago. Great-grandfather, the three of you should hurry up and break through. With us here in the Divine Hall, as long as we don't run out of energy, it'll be impossible for the Spirit King to break through the Divine Hall, Jianshun said to the three of them. Jianshun is right. Yang Lai, Guihai Idao, you two go break through right now. We need even more Origin Realm experts to maintain the Divine Hall. I'll remain in the Divine Hall for now. I'll go break through once the two of you reach the Origin Realm, said Feng Xiaotian. Yang Lai and Guihai Idao hesitated slightly before leaving. They directly ripped open a space gate and went to an unknown place. They did not choose to enter seclusion in the Divine Hall. Although it was safe there, they would definitely be affected if the Divine Hall was attacked by the world of Forsaken Saints at a crucial moment. As the tunnel to the Saints' world slowly vanished, the space that had collapsed due to the destruction of the formation gradually began to close up. As strands of sunlight reappeared, the darkness that had enveloped the entire world slowly receded as well, allowing the world to clear up once more. Jianshun, Xingguanmu Posen, Tianjin, and so on, as well as the Holy Emperor and Holy Emperor who had come to maintain the Divine Hall, all returned to the Divine Hall. All of them were prepared to contribute their strength to the Divine Hall at any time. However, Chanyang Minghua's departure meant that the world had lost a returnance expert. This made many sainthood experts feel heavy-hearted. Even though Yang Lai, Feng Xiaotian, and Guihai Dao would be able to reach the Origin Realm again soon, it was nowhere near enough to make up for the loss of a returnance expert. This was because even if the three of them reached the Origin Realm, they would only be at receival. If they were regular receival experts, they would not be the opponent of a returnance expert, even if they worked together. For a moment, a heavy and suffocating atmosphere permeated the entire divine hall. Many sainthood experts even began to despair. They believed that they only had a few decades left to live. Once the divine hall lost its power to suppress the world, it would be their doomsday. It would also be the doomsday of the world. If it were not for the fact that there were still a few Origin Realm experts present, some of the less resolute sainthood experts would have already descended into madness from despair and done some outrageous things. After all, various desires would be magnified in despair. Of course, not everyone would be like that, but there were definitely people who were like that. At the same time, there were a few people who suggested escaping from this world and going to the Saints' world. After all, the seal was gone now, so the Saints' world was no longer as inaccessible as before. However, Feng Xiaoyan's words dispelled everyone's thoughts very soon. It's impossible to pass through the tunnel between the two worlds before you reach the Origin Realm. The moment you enter the tunnel, you'll be obliterated by the pressure. You'll die a miserable death, far worse than dying at the hands of the world of forsaken saints. Big brother, that powerful big sister has left. What do we do now? Xiao Ling looked at Jianshan helplessly in the divine hall. She was filled with fear and unease. She was just an immature girl, so she could sense the heavy atmosphere outside. Even she was slightly affected. Sister Xiao Ling, don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just death at worst, said Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin said. His face was filled with indifference. However, he appeared to be only 3 or 4 years old, and he was not even a meter tall. Yet, he was comforting Xiao Ling, who was much older than him, which made the scene seem rather comical. Jianshan rubbed Xiao Ling's head and smiled. Xiao Ling, don't worry. Believe in Big Brother. Big Brother will find a way. Yeah, Xiao Ling believes in Big Brother. Xiao Ling seemed to have calmed down when she saw how confident Jianshan was. She nodded firmly and became much more determined. However, only Xiao Ling believed in consolation like that. Tianjin, Poseidon, Feng Xiaodian, and so on did not take it seriously. They all frowned sternly. Jianshan glanced at Shangwan Mu, and gently sighed inside. Originally, Changyang Mingyue was the last hope for this world, but with her departure, the sliver of hope had vanished as well. Now, the last hope of this world rested on him, and Shangwan Mu. Shangwan Mu's face became rather unnatural when she sensed Jianshan's gaze. The light in her eyes flickered a few times, and she seemed to make up her mind in the end. She said to Jianshan secretly, I agree to your suggestion. Shangwan Mu understood the current situation as well. If it were before, she might have placed her hopes on Changyang Mingyue, but she understood now that the lives of her father and Shangwan Aojin were in her hands. Jianshan immediately let out a sigh of relief inside when he heard that. He also replied, All right, once my great-grandfather and the others reach the Origin Realm, we'll immediately set off for Dragon Island. Shangwan Mu, and Jianshan communicated through communication, so no one else knew that they had come to an agreement aside from the two of them. The three of them had once been Origin Realm experts, so they had experienced a breakthrough before. As a result, the breakthrough this time was extremely easy for them. In just 2 short days, the three of them all reached the Origin Realm, but they were only at early receival. If they wanted to recover their past strength, they would need to absorb Origin energy and slowly cultivate. Now that there were 3 true Origin Realm experts in the Divine Hall, Jianshan and Shangwan Mu were finally able to leave without any worries. Very soon, the news of their departure spread. Everyone heard that the two of them had gone to find a way to completely deal with the threat from the world of Forsaken Saints. When they returned in a few years, or even a few decades, the world of Forsaken Saints would no longer be able to shake up the Tian Yuan continent. Chapter 1570. Jianshan and Shangwan Mu returned to Dragon Island. In ancient times, the Yinyang Saint Rock had fallen on Dragon Island from outer space before being moved to the depths of the endless universe by Mo Tianyan. It was extremely far away, such that even with Jianshan's current strength, he was unable to sense the rock. If he directly flew over from the Tian-Yuan continent, he probably would not be able to cover the distance even after several decades or over a century. As a result, the only path to where the Inyang Saint Rock was the formation that Mo Tianyun had cast down on Dragon Island. The formation possessed the power of teleportation, so it was the only shortcut to where the Inyang Saint Rock was. Jianshan and Shangguan Mu sighed in amazement when they returned to Dragon Island and looked at the scenery that had remained the same for several decades. When they had first arrived on Dragon Island, they had to be careful to avoid the mindless walking corpses that roamed the island, or they would die if they were careless. Now that they had returned, the wandering corpses no longer posed any threat to them. Even the powerful dragon souls that roamed the depths of Dragon Island were as weak as insects in their eyes. There are many heavenly resources growing on Dragon Island, and they're all shockingly old. It's just a pity that these heavenly resources aren't of very high quality, so they're useless to us. Let's directly go to the Lunisolar Cave and get to the Inyang Saint Rock as soon as possible, Jianshan said to Shangguan Mu. Shangguan Mu had already removed her veil, revealing her indescribably beautiful face. She followed beside Jianshan emotionlessly as she continued to hold the simple zither of the demonic cry. She nodded silently when she heard Jianshan's words. A sliver of mixed feelings appeared in her eyes. Just when Jianshan was about to set off for the Lunisolar Cave, his face suddenly changed. He gently let out an interjection of surprise and immediately changed directions. Originally, he had been heading for the Lunisolar Cave, but now he was directly charging towards the depths of Dragon Island. A sliver of interest appeared in Shangguan Mu's eyes as well. She followed behind Jianshan, flying towards the depths of Dragon Island. There was a 10-meter-tall formation on Dragon Island. Even Saint Emperors would feel pressured by such a powerful formation. At the same time, there was a terrifying killing formation hidden within as well. As soon as anyone who did not belong to the Dragon Clan came into contact with the 10-meter-tall formation, the space there would immediately crack open and devour them like the mouth of a demon. However, a formation like this was nothing to Origin Realm experts. Jianshan and Shangguan Mu directly ignored the 10-meter-tall formation. They flew towards the center of Dragon Island with lightning speed. As they moved, the space there shook violently, forming spatial cracks one after another. Dragon Island was very large, but with Jianshan and Shangguan Mu's speed, they crossed half of the island in just a short while. They arrived at the center of the island. A golden door that was 3 times the size of a sheet appeared in the air there. Illusionary dragon souls would fly out from it from time to time, wandering about the depths of the island. Jianshan was familiar with this place. This was the most sacred place of the Dragon Clan, a tomb established in a miniature world. Jianshan and Shangguan Mu both concealed their presences as they stood outside the entrance of the tomb. They did not enter. The tomb was the most sacred place of the Dragon Clan. All the dead dragons of the Dragon Clan were buried there. If outsiders set foot in there, it would be blasphemy to the Dragon Clan. Illusionary dragons roamed around the tomb. But even when Jianshan and Shangguan Mu stood outside the entrance, the wandering dragon souls failed to sense their existence at all. Even when some of the dragon souls passed by them, they did not sense them at all. It was as if Jianshan and Shangguan Mu did not exist in their eyes. Ruijin, Blackfish, and Honglian are actually cultivating here, Jianshan murmured. Ever since they parted ways in the Ice Goddess Hall, he had not seen Ruijin, Shangguan Mu and Shangguan Mu again. Even when he had enveloped the territories of the 4 races with the senses of his soul, he had failed to sense their presences. Today, he had unexpectedly discovered their traces on Dragon Island. After so many years, many people on the Tian-Yuan continent have become Holy Emperor. Even the Holy Emperors who were weaker than the 3 of them have broken through to Holy Emperor, yet the 3 of them are still stuck at the great perfection of Holy Emperor, Shangguan Mu said softly. She glanced at Jianshan beside her with some blame in her eyes. She was glancing at Jianshan. There were many people on the Tian-Yuan continent who did not know Jianshan, Yet Jianshun had generously given them violet cloud peaches and comprehension tea leaves to become holy emperor. Ruijin, Shangwanmu and Shangwanmu had assisted Jianshun countless times in the past. They had even been Jianshun's greatest backer against the 10 protector clans in the past. Yet now, the three of them were still stuck at the great perfection of holy emperor. They had not become emperors, so Shangwanmu found it rather difficult to continue watching. Sigh, I should have thought that seniors Ruijin and the other two should be cultivating here. I should have come here long ago, but I've been delayed by the matters of the world of forsaken saints, so I've never been able to free myself. Jianshun felt extremely regretful when he sensed that the three of them were still stuck at the great perfection of forsaken saints. The kindness that Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish had shown him was as heavy as a mountain. He would never be able to repay them. On the Tianyuan continent, many holy emperors who were not as powerful as Ruijin, Shangwanmu and Shangwanmu had broken through many years ago. Yet Ruijin, Shangwanmu and Shangwanmu were still working hard to become holy emperor. Jianshun's heart ached when he saw this. Not breaking through ahead of time might be a good thing for the three seniors. At the very least, they didn't take part in the battle against the world of forsaken saints. Although they possess armor with origin energy, they still can't defeat origin realm experts, said Shangwanmu. The fact that Ruijin, Shangwanmu and Shangwanmu had remained in seclusion for many years. If they had broken through ahead of time and taken part in the battle against the world of forsaken saints, they would not have been the opponents of receival or returnance experts, even with their origin energy armor. That's not right. Ruijin, Shangwanmu and Shangwanmu are still stuck at the great perfection of holy emperor, but their presences are no weaker than holy emperors. They're even more powerful than regular holy emperors. Jianshun's eyes narrowed as he stared at the depths of the tomb. Although he was unable to see Ruijin, Shangwanmu and Shangwanmu due to the countless tombstones, he could clearly sense their presences. They're practicing an even higher level cultivation method. This cultivation method has completely surpassed the Saint tier. Jianshun was greatly shocked. Saint tier cultivation methods and battle skills were already at the highest level in this world. If they surpassed this level, they would no longer belong to this world. They would definitely have been passed down from a higher world. Could it be that the winged tiger god from ancient times has reappeared? Aside from the winged tiger, who would help Ruijin and Shangwanmu like this? And the armor and weapons of seniors Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish all came from the winged tiger from the ancient times. When Ruijin and Shangwanmu were trapped in the Ice Goddess Hall, Protector Shui said that the three of them had already been saved. Is the mysterious expert who saved Ruijin and Shangwanmu, the winged tiger? When he saved them, did he pass down an even more profound cultivation method to them? Jianshun frowned in thought. However, no matter what conclusion he reached, it was only a guess. He had no concrete evidence to prove it. Ruijin, Shangwanmu and Shangwanmu had already reached a crucial moment in their cultivation. They would become holy emperors soon. Due to their cultivation methods, they would be more powerful than regular holy emperors as soon as they reached the level of holy emperor. As a result, Jianshun did not disturb Ruijin and Shangwanmu. Instead, he stood outside the tomb and took out 3 space rings. Each space ring contained 3 5th-grade violet cloud peaches and comprehension tea leaves. He also left behind enough springs of life. Afterwards, he wrote down the method to consume them on a stone tablet. After doing all that, he controlled the 3 space rings to slowly drift into the tomb, silently landing where the 3 of them cultivated. Chapter 1571. After leaving behind the space rings, Jianshun and Shangwanmu left the dragon's tomb, directly making their way to the lunisolar cave. The lunisolar cave was an extremely deep hole on Dragon Island. It had been formed when the Inyang Saint rock had flown in from outer space and smashed into Dragon Island. It was also because of the Inyang Saint rock that Dragon Island began to change, producing many walking corpses. Afterwards, the dragons, phoenixes, and the winged tiger all vanished from this world. Jinshin and Shangwan Mu arrived in the lunisolar cave. There was still quite a lot of stardust there. It was one of the materials for forging the azulite swords. It was one of the best materials on the Tianyuan continent, but it was basically worthless in the Saints' world. At the bottom of the lunisolar cave was a formation that Mo Tianyun had cast down in the past. The formation directly led to where the Yinyang Saint Rock was. Fortunately, the sword spirits knew about the formation. Afterwards, Jinshin and Shangwan Mu entered the formation using the method the sword spirits told them. They entered according to a specific pattern and direction. After taking the 8th step, their surroundings suddenly changed. They had left the lunisolar cave and appeared in a dark, cold region of outer space. Stars flickered as far as the eye could see, while the planet where the Tianyuan continent resided had already been hidden among the stars. It was impossible to find it. With that step, Jinshin and Shangwan Mu crossed an unimaginable distance. They appeared in outer space that was extremely distant from the Tianyuan continent. Although Jinshin and Shangwan Mu had already experienced something like this before, the shock they experienced this time was much greater than the first time. When they first experienced this, they were only saint rulers. Both their knowledge and experience were limited. At that time, they believed that as long as they surpassed the Holy Emperor, they would be able to cast down a formation that could traverse endless distances. They could even use their own strength to move through outer space as they wished. However, only now that they had become Origin Realm experts did they understand just how heaven-defying Mo Tianyun's formation was. With their strength, they could indeed travel through outer space as they wished, but the distance they could travel was extremely limited. It might have been easy for them to travel to the moon, which was not too far away from the Tianyuan continent. But if they wanted to travel such a great distance, just the vast sea of stars would be enough to make them lose their sense of direction. Even now, they would not be able to find their way home without the assistance of the formation below them as they stood in outer space. Follow my footsteps closely. Don't take a single wrong step. If you step outside the spatial node, you will be lost in the void. Jinshin held Shangwan Mu's hand tightly as he said sternly through a communication technique. At this moment, even he dared not to be careless. He completely obeyed the sword spirits. Shangwan Mu nodded slightly. She understood this extremely well, so she stood by Jinshin's side obediently. She did not dare to take a single step recklessly. Under the assistance of the sword spirits, Jinshin and Shangwan Mu walked through space step by step. Every step they took just happened to land on a spatial node, and the vast sea of stars around them would change with each step. This was because they had crossed too great a distance. However, this did not last for very long. When they took their 30th step, their surroundings suddenly changed. At a closer glance, the two of them had appeared in a spatial tunnel that was 10 meters wide. The surroundings of the tunnel were chaotic, so they could not see anything clearly. Everything was the same as when they had first come here. Afterwards, Jinshin and Shangwan Mu stepped into the tunnel and successfully arrived where the Yinyang Saint Rock was. It was a hazy space, devoid of any life at all. The entire world was deathly silent. Originally, this was an empty space. When Mo Tianyun had moved the Yinyang Saint Rock here, the yin and yang qi that leaked out from the rock from time to time formed the laws of the world. It created everything in the world, gradually forming this lifeless world. Jinshin finally let out a sigh of relief after successfully entering the world of the Yinyang Saint Rock. Afterwards, he arrived where the Yinyang Saint Rock was with great familiarity with Shangwan Mu. The Yinyang Saint Rock was placed in an extremely large, conical pit. The rock floated at the very bottom of the pit. When Jinshin saw the Yinyang Saint Rock again, it shone with intense black and white light, completely obscuring its body. However, Jinshin could still see the rock clearly. The Yinyang Saint Rock was not large. It was only the size of fist. One was black and one was white, but the terrifying energy within the rock was enough to make Jinshin shiver. If this energy erupted, the entire universe would probably be destroyed. At the same time, Jianshun could clearly see specks of red light flickering within the two rocks. They seemed to be alive as they pulsed slowly. Jianshun had no idea what the red light was, but the moment he saw it, all his hairs stood on end. He felt a chill run down his spine uncontrollably as his heart began to thump violently. He was not the only one. Even Shangwan Mu, Er's face changed drastically. She stared at the Yinyang Saint Rock. Clearly, the red light gave her the same feeling as Jianshun. Is this the evil power hidden within the Yinyang Saint Rock? Jianshun's eyes shone brightly. He also stared at the red light within the Yinyang Saint Rock. He was greatly shocked. Just a single glance had given him such an intense feeling. The terror of the evil power had completely exceeded Jianshun's imagination. What an evil power! Once this power breaks free, it'll lead to a devastating disaster. Looks like this is the crux of the crisis of the world. No one can stop it. The primordial god Silk is the thing that can stop the crisis. The sword spirits appeared as well. They stared at the Yinyang Saint Rock sternly. Suddenly, their faces changed. They cried out, "Oh no, the evil power is actually absorbing the Yin and Yang Qi within the Yinyang Saint Rock. This will only make it stronger. We have to stop it, or even the primordial god Silk won't be able to stop it once it reaches a certain level of strength." But the evil power is hidden within the Yinyang Saint Rock, and the rock can't be touched. If the balance between the Yin and Yang is lost, we'll face the crisis from the rock before the evil power matures, Jianshun said with a frown. He was extremely stern. Chapter 1572. When Jianshun and Shangwan Mu entered the space within the Yinyang Saint Rock with the hopes of the four races, the main culprit who had caused them to fall into despair, the Spirit King, currently stood at the top of the World Mountains. He faced the constantly twisting tunnel before him. The Spirit King possessed an extremely ordinary face. His long, black hair casually draped over his shoulders. Both his appearance and attire were extremely ordinary. He had never intentionally dressed himself up. He was the type of person who would not attract any attention if he was thrown into a crowd. Perhaps the only thing that gave people an impression about the Spirit King was the extraordinary determination on his ordinary face. However, beneath his ordinary appearance hid supreme strength and terrifying prestige that made all the Origin Realm experts from the world of Forsaken Saints tremble. Even Xiongzhong and Ouyang Yangwan, who were late returnants experts, did not dare to disobey him. The Spirit King stood with his hands behind his back as he stared at the tunnel before him emotionlessly. Strands of light would flicker through his deep, dark eyes from time to time. His gaze would be ordinary at times and sharp at other times. When it became sharp, it would seem like a sword with a threatening presence. Even reciprocity experts like the Spirit King would feel extremely shocked when they saw it. A dark, metal sword hovered beside the Spirit King. The metal sword was forged from an unknown material, so it seemed extremely ordinary under its dark exterior. It did not catch anyone's attention at all. Compared to the shining, treasured swords, it seemed like a dazzling sun. However, the metal sword hovered in the air by itself without any support. Its tip was pointed downwards, while its hilt was pointed upwards behind the Spirit King. Ouyang Yangwan and the other protectors and elders all held their breaths behind the Spirit King. They stood there quietly, not even daring to breathe too loudly. Whether it was the Receival protectors or the Returnants elders, they all seemed to have lost their dignity as Origin Realm experts at that moment. They were like completely different people compared to how they were on the Tian Yuan continent. A few of the protectors and elders had already disappeared. They had all died on the Tian Yuan continent. Many of them were pale and haggard, as if they were ill. Even their robes were stained with blood. Clearly, some of them had yet to recover from their injuries on the Tian Yuan continent. I never thought that the Tian Yuan continent would possess such a powerful divine hall. This divine hall is indeed a supreme treasure, no weaker than the three supreme treasures of our world of Forsaken Saints. Even I can't damage it at all. The Tian Yuan continent really isn't simple. We've actually misjudged their strength time and time again. They've actually managed to produce so many Receival and Returnants experts in an environment without Origin energy. How unexpected, the Spirit King said slowly. His voice was deep and heavy, without any emotions at all. Ouyang Yongwan, Xiong Zhong, and the other elders all stood there silently. They did not even dare to breathe too loudly. They had a certain understanding of the Spirit King, so they knew that he was truly infuriated even though he seemed calm right now. This was because they had lost a returnance expert this time. Aside from the returnance elders, there were even a few receival protectors who had died in the battle. The world of Forsaken Saints had suffered extremely heavy losses in their invasion of the Tian Yuan continent this time. Although they still had 7 elders and over 20 protectors, the losses this time had left the world of Forsaken Saints shaken to the core. Is Jinshan of the Tian Yuan continent really that powerful? Even you 2 mid-returnance elders aren't his opponent? The Spirit King asked again. His voice was just as heavy as before as he stared at the tunnel before him. In the past, he had used the Cloudstream sword to pass through the tunnel and clashed once outside the Tian Yuan continent. Although Jinshan had also comprehended the way of the sword, he was nowhere near as powerful as he was back then. It had been a decade or 2 since then, and a few people with unprecedented talent could make major breakthroughs, but the Tian Yuan continent did not possess origin energy. No matter how talented they were, it was impossible for them to reach the origin realm in such an environment, let alone make major breakthroughs. Spirit King, Jinshan is indeed extremely powerful. Even when Elder Bai and I work together, we can't kill him when he's heavily injured. We can only barely keep him suppressed, and his recovery is extremely shocking as well. No matter how heavily injured he is, he can make a full recovery in an extremely short amount of time. A senile old man stood forward and said. A gleam of light flickered through Ouyang Yangwen's eyes. After a moment of hesitation, he said with mixed feelings, Spirit King, there's another piece of news. I don't know if I should say it or not. Ouyang Yangwen was extremely uneasy as he said that. He did not know how the Spirit King would react once he heard the news. Speak. The Spirit King's tone remained the same. Ouyang Yangwen sucked in a deep breath and slowly said, Jinshan's strength may have surpassed mid-returnance experts, where even some late-returnance experts are not his opponent, but his true strength is not even at the origin realm. Jinshan is actually the Holy Emperor. The expressions of many protectors and elders immediately changed when they heard Ouyang Yangwen's words. Disbelief filled their faces. How is that possible? There's an uncrossable gap between sainthood and the origin realm. It's not an exaggeration to describe it as the difference between heaven and earth. Although Jinshan has comprehended the way of the sword and can surpass this gap, it's impossible for him to be so heaven-defying as to be able to fight returnance experts with the strength of the Holy Emperor and reach late returnance. He's only a step away from reciprocity. A protector immediately cried out. He had completely forgotten that the Spirit King was present. Jinshan had comprehended the way of the sword, which was the power of laws. No one was particularly surprised that he could fight receival experts with the strength of the Holy Emperor, but many people struggled to accept that he could erupt with battle prowess on par with late returnance experts with the strength of the Holy Emperor. This was because even the Spirit King probably did not possess such battle prowess in the past. Ouyang Yangwen nervously stared at the Spirit King. He might have been insufferably arrogant on the Tian Yuan continent, acting like he was the greatest in the world, but before the Spirit King, he trembled in fear. To Ouyang Yangwen's surprise, the Spirit King remained very calm after hearing the news. It was as if the news that everyone found unbelievable could not affect the Spirit King at all. Jinshan, Jinshan, the Spirit King softly murmured. Ever since he had clashed with Jinshan, the name had been deeply engraved in his heart, causing him to say it more than once. It was also at this moment that the Spirit King's gaze became extremely deep. He stared deeply at the distorted tunnel before him and sank into a long period of silence. The protectors and elders from the world of Forsaken Saints all stood there silently. None of them dared to disturb the Spirit King as he sank into his thoughts. After quite a while, the Spirit King finally turned around slowly and made his way down the world mountains. He said, I'm going into seclusion immediately to attempt to break through to the origin realm. During this time, no one is allowed to disturb me unless there's something extremely important. The daily matters of the Sacred Spirit Hall will be handled by you 7 elders. Ouyang Yongwen, you've been stuck at late returnance for many years. Break through to reciprocity as soon as possible. Once I emerge, I'll charge out with the spirit sages. The protectors and elders were immediately shocked when they heard what the Spirit King had said. The Spirit King was actually going to break through to the origin realm. Would that not mean he was going to reach the legendary realm of Godhood? Chapter 1573. Quite a few of the origin realm experts remained in confusion after the Spirit King's departure. That's strange. Why has the great Spirit King suddenly announced that he is going into seclusion at a time like this? Although the entrance to the Tian Yuan continent has been blocked by a powerful divine hall, the people of the Tian Yuan continent won't be able to last for very long. If the Spirit King constantly attacks the divine hall with his battle prowess at godhood, he should be able to deplete its power very quickly. Without the assistance of a divine hall, it's impossible for the people of the Tian Yuan continent to stop all of our protectors and elders. An origin realm protector asked in confusion. He stared in the direction that the Spirit King had disappeared in as undisguised admiration appeared on his face. The Spirit King obviously has his reasons for not doing that. At the same time, we all saw how the Spirit King attacked the Divine Hall. In the beginning, the Spirit King was still able to shake the Divine Hall, but afterwards, the Divine Hall gradually stabilized. It remained unmoved even after taking on the Spirit King's full-powered attacks, so we can conclude that the Divine Hall's power has definitely increased by a lot. It won't be easy for the Spirit King to deplete the Divine Hall's power with his strength. If the people of the Tian Yuan continent possessed heavenly resources that could recover, the Divine Hall would take a lot longer. It might even be able to extend the Divine Hall to several hundred years. After all, that world is just far too abnormal. It's impossible for there to be so many origin realm experts in an environment without origin energy. That world is not as simple as we imagine it to be. Instead of wasting so much time pointlessly attacking the Divine Hall, why not use that time on cultivation? If the Spirit King spends that time on cultivation, he might be able to reach the legendary level of godhood with his unprecedented talent. At that time, it'll be a piece of cake for the Spirit King to break through the Divine Hall, said another protector. Whenever he mentioned the Spirit King, his voice would be filled with respect. And there's one more thing. If the people of the Tian Yuan continent flee into outer space with the Divine Hall or the Saint's World, we won't be able to obtain the Divine Hall. If the Spirit King reaches godhood, the people of the Tian Yuan continent won't be able to escape from the Spirit King even if they try to flee with the Divine Hall. Even if they hide in the depths of outer space, the Spirit King will be able to find them. It's said that as long as you reach godhood, you can move through outer space. You won't even get lost in the depths of outer space. Many protectors and elders present agreed with what the protector had said. Godhood had never appeared in the world of Forsaken Saints, and the Spirit King was only at mid-reciprocity. Logically speaking, it should have been impossible for him to reach godhood in such a short amount of time. However, the current Spirit King possessed unprecedented talent. Not only had he reached his current level of cultivation in just over 800 years, becoming the only king of the world of Forsaken Saints, but he had also comprehended laws, shattering the legend that no one in the world of Forsaken Saints could comprehend laws. What others could not do was not necessarily impossible for the Spirit King. All the protectors and elders present were extremely certain that if the Spirit King focused on seclusion, he would be able to reach godhood in just a short amount of time. Ouyang Yongwen walked out and glanced at the protectors with a slightly sunken face. He coldly said, "Don't question the Spirit King's decisions. Every decision he makes is correct. I will also enter seclusion immediately and reach reciprocity as soon as possible. During my seclusion, enter the tunnel and constantly attack the Divine Hall. Even if you can't destroy it, you'll still exhaust its power. We can't let the people of that world have it so easy. Humph, the protectors and elders of our world can't die for nothing." "Yes, Grand Elder. The receival protectors all replied. In the world of forsaken saints where strength was everything, Ouyang Yangwen held the greatest authority aside from the Spirit King. The protectors who were only at receival did not dare to disobey Ouyang Yangwen's orders. Although the other returnants elders were not as powerful as Ouyang Yangwen, they did not fear Ouyang Yangwen since they were all elders and had reached returnants. Ouyang Yangwen had no right to order them around. Ouyang Yangwen glanced at the injured Xiongzhong, and a cold light flashed through his eyes. He left with a huff of his sleeve. Xiongzhong had always been his mortal enemy, and the elders were split into two factions. One of them was led by Jianshan, while the other was led by Xiongzhong. The returnant's elder who had been slain by Jianshan on the Tianyuan continent belonged to Ouyang Yangwen's faction. Ouyang Yangwen is actually about to break through. I'm already slightly weaker than him, so if he breaks through while I'm still at late returnants, I won't be his opponent at all. I need to enter seclusion immediately and break through as soon as possible, thought Xiongzhong. Xiongzhong thought. Afterwards, he left as well and entered seclusion with Ouyang Yangwen. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. During those 3 years, the Spirit King, Ouyang Yangwen, and Xiongzhong all entered deep seclusion. However, there would be receival protectors stationed at the top of the world mountains from time to time. Elders would also come to investigate the situation from time to time. In the past 3 years, the protectors from the world of forsaken saints were split into groups of 5. They worked with a few elders to constantly attack the Divine Hall on the Tianyuan continent. Not only did their attacks fail to collapse the tunnel, but they even made it more stable with the passage of time. Now, the tunnel could easily endure the shock waves from battles between returnants experts. Even reciprocity experts could enter. Some changes had occurred on the Tianyuan continent in the past 3 years. The changes were mainly due to the 4 huge cracks that split the continent into 4. Each crack was several dozen kilometers wide and bottomless. Now, the 4 cracks had become 4 turbulent rivers, causing quite a lot of obstacles for many Heaven Saint Masters to cross the continent. Shipping and air transport had come into being with the appearance of the 4 wide rivers in the past 3 years, becoming the necessary means of transportation for many low-level cultivators to cross the continent. Now, huge sailboats could be seen everywhere on the 4 wide rivers. In the air, there were also many flying demonic beasts flying at an extremely fast speed. On the back of each flying demonic beast, there were several or even dozens of cultivators. Most of these flying demonic beasts were raised by some forces and placed on both sides of the river as expensive transportation. They were expensive and not something that ordinary cultivators could ride. The Supreme Divine Hall of Mercenary City still stood at the entrance of the tunnel. This place used to be the ruins of Mercenary City, and it was also the center of the battle. As a result, the location of the Supreme Divine Hall was also the intersection of the 4 rivers. However, a powerful pulse of energy and a terrifying pressure permeated the surrounding 100 kilometers of the tunnel. It pushed away the water in the surroundings, turning the area into a vacuum. The surrounding 1,000 kilometers had become a forbidden zone, where only sainthood experts could enter. Chapter 1574. The Supreme Divine Hall above the tunnel had already been split into 2 regions, the inner region and the outer region. The inner region was the core of the Divine Hall. Only Tianjin and the Origin Realm experts of the 4 races could enter there. The outer region was where all the sainthood experts resided. Whether it was saint rulers, holy emperors, or holy emperors, they all gathered in the outer region of the Divine Hall. They poured their energy into the Divine Hall without holding back, maintaining the Divine Hall suppression of the tunnel with the Origin Realm experts in the inner region. During the 3 years of suppression, the sainthood experts of the 4 races were split into 4 shifts. Each shift belonged to a different race, and the sainthood experts of each race had to remain in the Divine Hall for 10 days. During those 10 days, they would pour 90% of their saint force into the Divine Hall. When the shift was changed 10 days later, they would have a month to recover their saint force. The cycle continued. 3 years later, the number of sainthood experts of the four races had increased by a lot compared to when the war had just ended. Although the number of holy emperors had not increased, the number of holy emperors and saint rulers had increased by quite a lot. In particular, the number of saint rulers had increased by over 100 in just 3 years. With the four races combined, the number of saint rulers had reached 500. This change made many experts of the four races realize that breaking through seemed to be much easier than 3 years ago. However, the advantage of breaking through was mainly from Heaven's Saint Master to Saint Ruler. There was no obvious advantage to breaking through to a higher level of cultivation. As for the Holy Emperor, breaking through to Holy Emperor was still as difficult as before. As a result, the number of Holy Emperors of the four races did not change at all in the past 3 years. At this moment, the rather dignified Tianjin sat on a white jade seat in the core region of the Divine Hall. He channeled the powerful energy that everyone had poured into the Divine Hall into the formation through the white jade seat, maintaining the Divine Hall suppression of the tunnel. Yanglai Guihai Yi Dao, Feng Xiaotian, Poseidon, Houston, Xiao Jin, Xiaoling, and the Winged Tiger were all gathered around Tianjin. Aside from Tai Ta, all the Origin Realm experts in the world were present. During the past 3 years, the sainthood experts had been replaced every 10 days. However, the Origin Realm experts who stood at the apex of the world did not enjoy such treatment at all. None of them had left the Divine Hall in the past 3 years. Even when they ran out of Origin energy, they had to consume the mortal energy fruit left behind by Jianshun to recover. This was because they needed to prevent the Spirit King from attacking the Divine Hall. Now that the Divine Hall was missing Tai Ta, Jianshun, and Shenghuan Mu'er, if the Spirit King suddenly attacked the Divine Hall, they would need everyone's full strength and all the sainthood experts to barely stop him. As a result, none of the Origin Realm experts could leave while the Divine Hall was suppressing the tunnel. Otherwise, it was extremely likely for the Divine Hall to be torn apart by the Spirit King. The world of Forsaken Saints was so powerful that even if Tai Ta, Jianshun, Shenghuan Mu'er, and Chanyang Mingyue were present, they would not be their opponent. Not to mention that Chanyang Mingyue had gone to the Saint World, while Jianshun and Shenghuan Mu'er had left the Tian Yuan continent. No one knew where they had gone. Under such circumstances, what awaited them would be a hellish disaster if they lost the front line. They could not afford to be careless. In the past 3 years, the world of Forsaken Saints has never stopped attacking the Divine Hall. Although the attacks have weakened, they're still exhausting the Divine Hall's power. If they continue like this, I think we'll only be able to last 100 years at most. I believe that the attacks from the world of Forsaken Saints will gradually become stronger before long. At that time, we'll be able to last even less time. Poseidon frowned and said sternly, maintaining the Divine Hall consumed the Divine Hall's power. Coupled with the constant attacks from the Origin Realm experts from a world of Forsaken Saints, the Divine Hall's power was being depleted at an even faster rate. We should rejoice that the Spirit King has not continued to attack the Divine Hall. When the Spirit King struck out 3 years ago, all of us, including Tai Ta, Jianshun, and Shenghuan Mu'er, barely managed to keep the Divine Hall stable. Now that the 3 of them are gone, it'll be extremely difficult for us to stop the Spirit King's attacks. If the Spirit King constantly attacks the Divine Hall, I think we'll only be able to last for 10 years or even less, said Yanglai. Deep fear appeared in his eyes when he mentioned the Spirit King. The Spirit King's strength had completely exceeded the 3 of them when they were at their peak. After all, they were only at the Origin Realm when they roamed the Saints' world, while the Spirit King's battle prowess was equivalent to godhood. Tai Ta has gone to where Ruijin is sealed. Once he returns, his strength will definitely increase. At the same time, all of us can sense that the world has changed slightly. We don't know what it is exactly. Although there's no origin energy, it's clearly much easier for Saint rulers to break through compared to 3 years ago, and the changes are still ongoing. I believe that in a few years, it'll be much easier for Saint rulers to break through to Holy Emperor. It might even be able to affect the Holy Emperor's breakthrough, Feng Xiaotian said with a smile. The changes in the world were basically good news to them because the four races would become more and more powerful as their breakthroughs became easier and easier. Xiaoling tilted her head and thought for a while. She said crisply, "Do you think the changes in the world have something to do with Big Brother? That shouldn't be possible." Feng Xiaodian shook his head. He was a disciple of a large sect in the saints' world. Even though he was only an ordinary disciple, he still had quite the insight. In his opinion, even Godhead experts would not be able to affect the changes in the world, let alone Jianshan, who was still some distance away from Godhead. Today just happened to be the day when the human sainthood experts would change shifts in the Divine Hall after 10 days. The sainthood experts of the sea race would replace them. In less than 10 minutes, the humans in the sea race had finished changing shifts. They all walked out of the Divine Hall in exhaustion. Some of the human sainthood experts chose to remain in the Divine Hall to recover their saint force, while others chose to leave. Without any exception, all of them became leaders of organizations on the Tianyuan continent. Among the people who left, there was a dignified middle-aged man in embroidered robes. In the past 10 days, he had channeled 90% of his saint force into the Divine Hall, so he was currently filled with exhaustion. As he walked out of the Divine Hall, many human sainthood experts, regardless of whether they were holy emperors or holy emperors, all greeted the middle-aged man with a smile. There were even a few holy emperors who came up to talk with him. Even though the middle-aged man was only at the second heavenly layer of the holy emperor, he seemed extremely composed before experts who were far more powerful than him. Even when he faced a holy emperor, he was neither haughty nor servile. On the other hand, the holy emperors were all extremely polite to the middle-aged man who had only recently become a holy emperor. They greeted him with a smile, as if they were an esteemed guest. This did not only happen to the human sainthood experts. Even the sainthood experts of the sea race who had come to replace them treated the middle-aged man the same way. All of them were extremely polite. Whether it was the peak holy emperor of the sea race or the holy emperor of the sea race, no one dared to provoke the middle-aged man who had only recently become a holy emperor. As a result, the middle-aged man stood out among the group of sainthood experts. The middle-aged man was Jianshan's father, Changyangba. As the father of the greatest human expert, even though Changyangba's personal strength was not worth mentioning in front of many people, he still possessed an extraordinary status. Changyangba basically walked out of the Divine Hall under the encirclement of the Holy Emperor and the Holy Emperor. Afterward, he clasped his hands and bid farewell to everyone. As the human sainthood experts all left, only Changyangba and a few other people remained. However, there were still 5 people in red robes standing silently behind Changyangba. Their red robes were embroidered with a flame-shaped insignia. Whether it was the Tianyuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Sea Realm, or the Wasteland continent, they were all familiar with this insignia because it was the insignia of the Flame Mercenaries. The 5 middle-aged men were not weak at all. They had all reached the level of Holy Emperor and were above the 5th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. They were far more powerful than Changyangba. However, they had used up 90% of their saint force in the Divine Hall, so the 5 of them were rather pale. However, the 5 holy emperors stood behind Changyangba like guards. They were motionless and showed no intentions of leaving first. It was as if the 5 of them would not leave until Changyangba left. Changyangba hovered in the air as he looked at the shattered Tianyuan continent below him. He gently sighed and said, "Let's go back." With Changyangba's words, one of the 5 people behind him immediately stepped forward. He ripped open space with the Holy Emperor's ability and quickly created a space gate. Only after Changyangba stepped through the space gate did the 5 of them enter one after another. The 5 Holy Emperor were the divine guards of the Flame Mercenaries. They were the people who had joined the Flame Mercenaries in Wake City of the Blue Wind Kingdom. Originally, it was impossible for them to even reach Earth's Saint Master with their talent, but their loyalty to the Flame Mercenaries and Jianshan made Jianshan decide to nurture them. Afterwards, Jianshan used several decades and a large amount of effort and heavenly resources to nurture them without holding back. In the end, they became experts on the Tianyuan continent and were given the title of Divine Guards of the Flame. There were originally 50 to 60 divine guards of the flame, and all of them were Holy Emperor. They were the greatest foundation of the flame mercenaries, as well as the protectors of the flame mercenaries. However, they had suffered heavy losses in the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints. In the end, only 20 of them survived. Under the orders of Bai Lian, 5 of them were stationed in Chanyang Prefecture. One reason was to protect Chanyang Prefecture, and the other was to strengthen the dignity of Chanyang Prefecture. Chapter 1575. Due to a slip of the pen in the previous chapter, I had written Chanyang Ba's strength as a saint ruler instead of a holy emperor. It has been corrected now. Chanyang Ba was the prefecture lord of Chanyang Prefecture, and because of his 4th son, he was extremely renowned on the Tian Yuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Sea Realm, and the Wasteland continent. However, the authority that Chanyang Ba possessed was pitifully weak compared to his current status. This was because the people he could mobilize were the earliest people from Chanyang Prefecture in Lore City, as well as a few Heaven Saint Masters and Saint Rulers who had joined Chanyang Prefecture because of Jinshin's fame. However, the Holy Emperor who had joined Chanyang Prefecture had joined Chanyang Prefecture because of their admiration for Jinshin. They were willing to follow Jinshin's orders, but they respected Chanyang Ba most of the time. As for the Saint Rulers and Holy Emperor from the Zhu branch who lived in seclusion in the forbidden grounds of Chanyang Prefecture, all of them possessed frightening seniority. Any one of them was Chanyang Ba's great-grandfather in terms of seniority. Whenever Chanyang Ba saw them, he had to greet them as a senior. This power was not something that Chanyang Ba could wield. As a result, Chanyang Ba had to possess a great reputation. As the prefecture lord of Chanyang Prefecture who was renowned across the continent, the sainthood power that he could control was pitifully weak. It did not match his great status at all. Bai Lian had considered this, which was why the 5 divine guards of flames were stationed in Chanyang Prefecture. At the same time, they would listen to Chanyang Ba, the prefecture lord of Chanyang Prefecture. They had become a force that could be controlled by the prefecture lord of Chanyang Prefecture. At the same time, they would be able to control the situation. Chanyang Ba returned to the Chanyang clan in Lore City under the protection of the 5 divine guards of the flame. He immediately entered seclusion to recover his saint force. The 5 divine guards of flames were only guards in name, but they were all experts of the Holy Emperor. As a result, their statuses in Chanyang Prefecture were extremely great. Even the direct descendants of Chanyang Prefecture treated them with respect. The 5 of them each had their own independent courtyard in Chanyang Prefecture. They were located in the center, north, south, east, and west respectively. They guarded the surroundings of Chanyang Prefecture, vaguely becoming the protectors of Chanyang Prefecture. When the prefecture lord of Chanyang Prefecture went out, the 5 divine guards followed him closely. The rest of the time, the 5 divine guards cultivated in seclusion in Chanyang Prefecture. They would only appear when the prefecture lord of Chanyang Prefecture needed them. 3 days later, Chanyang Ba recovered some saint force. He emerged from seclusion and went to find Bai Yuntian. When Jinshin and Shangwan Mu left the Tian Yuan continent 3 years ago, they had left the saint artifact with Bai Yuntian. Bai Yuntian cultivated in the artifact space, and her strength skyrocketed. She was now a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, just like the saint rulers of the Tian Yuan continent. She had a lifespan of 3,000 years, so time had not left a mark on her face. Although she was already 60 years old, she still seemed to be in her 30s. Chanyang Ba sent away all the servants in a garden filled with the fragrance of flowers in Chanyang Prefecture. He sat in a white pavilion with Bai Yuntian. The entire pavilion was enveloped by a barrier. "Husband, why are you looking for me? Why are you so cautious?" Bai Yuntian immediately asked out of curiosity when she saw Chanyang Ba envelop the pavilion with a barrier. Chanyang Ba sat on a stone stool and gently sipped some tea. He said, "My wife, not only did the heavenly resources that Xiang'er left behind allow my strength to skyrocket, but it also allowed me to be reborn, allowing me to reach the Holy Emperor level in just a few short decades. At the same time, I have the hope of becoming a holy emperor. At the same time, the world has changed in a way that none of us can understand. The sovereigns who guard the divine hall have said that the strange change in the world has made the laws of the world slightly more complete. Not only will it allow us to cultivate more efficiently, but it will also make it easier for us to break through bottlenecks. These changes will definitely gradually affect the Holy Emperor and cultivators at the level of the Holy Emperor as time goes on. As a result, under the influence of the world, I want to relinquish my position as Prefecture Lord and focus on cultivation. My husband, who do you plan to pass the position of Prefecture Lord to? Bai Yuntian's expression was calm. Decades ago, her greatest wish was for Jianxun to inherit the position of Prefecture Lord of Changyang Prefecture. But now, the position of Prefecture Lord of Changyang Prefecture was insignificant in Bai Yuntian's eyes. Changyang Ba looked up at the sky and sighed. He said, "In my heart, the most suitable person to inherit the position of Prefecture Lord is none other than Xiang. But let's not talk about whether Xiang is interested in the position of Prefecture Lord. Moreover, with Xiang's achievements, I'm afraid that he won't be interested in the position. The second most suitable person to inherit the position is Ahu, but he has severed his emotions and desires. He has severed his familial ties and devoted himself to cultivation in the Pure Heart Pavilion. Now, among the 4 children of Changyang Ba, only Ku'er is left." Bai Yuntian smiled faintly and said, "My husband, among your 4 children, Ahu, Mingyu, and Xiang are all very capable and have their own world. Only Ku'er has not accomplished anything yet. If you pass the position to Ku'er, I will not object." "All right, since my wife has said so, then it's settled. I'll get Changbo to announce this right now. In 7 days, Ku'er will officially inherit the position of Prefecture Lord of Changyang Prefecture." Changyang Ba smiled from ear to ear. He did not need to ask anyone else, nor did he need to ask for the opinions of the other senior members of the clan. The successor to the position of Prefecture Lord of Changyang Prefecture was decided by Bai Yuntian and Changyang Ba. The news that the Prefecture Lord of Changyang Prefecture, Changyang Ba, was about to step down and pass the position to his 3rd son, Changyang Ku, spread very quickly. In less than a day, it had spread across the Tian Yuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Sea Realm, and the Wasteland continent. Its influence was so great that even the new emperors of the 3 great empires on the Tian Yuan continent could not compare to a 10,000th of it. This was because the current Changyang Prefecture was the clan of the greatest human expert, Jianxun. The current Prefecture Lord of Changyang Prefecture, Changyang Ba, was Jianxun's father. Changyang Ku, who was about to inherit the position of Prefecture Lord, was also Jianxun's 3rd brother. Because of the relationship between the two, the extremely common succession of the old and new in Changyang Prefecture became different on the Tian Yuan continent. Many Holy Emperor and Holy Emperor level experts of the 4 races, as well as a few people in charge of large organizations, had received kindness from Jianxun in the past. As a result, they began to prepare great gifts as soon as they received the news. They planned to visit Changyang Prefecture in 7 days to congratulate Changyang Ku on inheriting the position of Patriarch. At the same time, Changyang Ku and his wife, who were about to become the Prefecture Lord of Changyang Prefecture, were extremely excited within an extremely luxurious hall in Changyang Prefecture. "Husband, you'll become the Prefecture Lord of Changyang Prefecture in a few more days. At that time, your name will definitely resound across the entire continent. Even the other 3 races will know your name," said a woman in her 30s. The one who spoke was a woman who was about 30 years old. She had a face like a flower and a face like the moon. She was quite pretty. Her speech and actions were filled with the feeling of a lady from a noble family. Between her eyebrows, there was a bit of unconcealable arrogance. At a glance, one could tell that she was a young lady who grew up in a big family. The woman was Changyang Ku's wife. Her name was Xie Yan. The 2 of them had been married for many years and had a son. He had just turned 20 this year. As Changyang Ku's only wife, Xie Yan obviously possessed an extraordinary status in Changyang Prefecture. Chanyang Ba had bestowed upon her 100,000-year-old heavenly resource to change her constitution, allowing her to be reborn. She had become a great talent for cultivation, allowing her to become a heaven saint master at such a young age. Of course, the 100,000-year-old heavenly resource in Chanyang Ba's possession had all been left behind by Jianshan. Chanyang had matured a lot as well. He was now a middle-aged man in his 30s. He possessed the gentleness of scholar. His strength had also reached Saint Ruler because of Jianshan. Chanyang was extremely excited at this moment. He had never thought that his father would actually pass the position to him. This was completely unexpected to him. Out of Chanyang Ba's 4 children, he was the most useless one. If it were not for Jianshan, he probably would have only been an Earth Saint Master at the end of his life. He would never have been able to become a Saint Ruler. Even though he had become a Saint Ruler now, he still felt like he was a nobody. This was because his sister and brother were just far too dazzling. They had both become Origin Realm experts. Under the limelight of Chanyang, Mingyue, and Jianshan, Chanyang's achievement as a Saint Ruler seemed like the light of a firefly. Not to mention that it was no longer a Saint Ruler several decades ago, where the Holy Emperor did not appear and the Holy Emperor was extinct. Now that all the sainthood experts had appeared, a mere Saint Ruler like him seemed even more insignificant. However, the position of the provincial lord of Chanyang Prefecture was completely different. Was there anyone in Chanyang Prefecture who did not know about it among the 4 races? Was there anyone who did not know about it? As long as he became the provincial lord of Chanyang Prefecture, he would possess an extremely great status, even if his personal strength was not great. Only with this status would he be able to truly raise his head. More importantly, as the provincial lord of Chanyang Prefecture, he would be able to command 5 powerful divine guards of the flame. Controlling 5 holy emperors who were at the 5th heavenly layer or higher was a supreme honor. When necessary, he would even be able to mobilize some of the flame mercenaries. Chanyang had never thought that there would be a day when he would possess such great authority. Congratulations, Father, on becoming the provincial lord of Chanyang Prefecture. A handsome young man knelt on the ground as he excitedly said. The young man bore some resemblance to Chanyang. His face was filled with undisguised pride. He was the son of Chanyang and Xieyan. His name was Chanyang Su, and he was Chanyang's only child. Aside from Shangguan Mu, Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, Qin Qin, and Yu Yu, no one knew about Jianshan's son, Shangguan Aojin. As a result, Chanyang Su became Chanyang Ba's only grandson, so he was obviously doted on by Chanyang Ba. When Chanyang Su was young, Chanyang Ba had mixed many precious heavenly resources into medicinal liquid for Chanyang Su to soak in. He had been using heavenly resources to cleanse Chanyang Su's body since he was young. There were countless 1,000-year-old heavenly resources, and there were even 10,000-year-old and 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. Without any exaggeration, Chanyang Su had been soaked in medicinal liquid since he was young. Even Jianshan did not receive such treatment in the past. As a result, he possessed extremely great potential. His cultivation speed increased by leaps and bounds, which was extremely shocking. At the same time, he could casually browse through the battle skills and cultivation methods of the clan. After all, with the current status of the Chanyang Prefecture, there was no need for them to carefully protect the various battle skills and cultivation methods like before. Chanyang Su did not disappoint Chanyang Ba. He was a great Saint Master at the age of 20, while many people had only just condensed Saint weapons at his age. Even some direct descendants of ancient clans were nowhere near as accomplished at Chanyang Su's age. Among the younger generation, Chanyang Su had truly become the greatest expert. Coupled with his illustrious background, Chanyang Su became condescending before outsiders. A sliver of pride finally appeared on Chanyang's face as he looked at Chanyang Su. He admitted that he was the most useless of his 4 brothers, but he believed that he had already surpassed his eldest brother and 4th brother in terms of the younger generation. Su, you have to work hard on cultivation. You have to become someone like your uncle in the future and make me proud, Chanyang said sincerely. He held very high hopes for his son. Father, My future goal is to surpass Uncle and replace him as the greatest human expert, Changyang Su proudly declared. He was rather conceited. Changyang Ku immediately frowned when he heard that Changyang Su wanted to replace his uncle. He sternly said, Su, you can't have achieved so much at such a young age without your uncle's help. You have to show some respect to your uncle. Do you understand? I understand, father. I will definitely respect uncle in the future, Changyang Su said nonchalantly. Changyang Su disagreed. He had only seen his legendary uncle a few times since he was young. Xieying glanced at Changyang Ku and said, Why are you so strict? Su-er's goal is to surpass uncle. We should be happy that he has such thoughts, not scolding him. Don't you want to see your child stand at the apex of the Tian-Yuan continent in the future? Within the city of God, one of the 7 capital cities of the Holy Empire, a resolute young man dressed in martial arts roamed the bustling streets in high spirits. Beside the young man were 2 women in white dresses. The 2 women seemed to be in their 20s. They were extremely beautiful and possessed beauty that could cause the downfall of nations. Wherever they passed, they would attract the gazes of countless people, causing them to become stunned. At this moment, the news that the 3rd young master of Chanyang Prefecture, Changyang Ku, was about to inherit the position of potentate of Chanyang Prefecture spread. In the blink of an eye, the entire city of God was shaken up. Everyone knew about it very soon. Changyang Ku, isn't that my 3rd uncle? The young man's face changed when he heard the news. Xiao Bao, your grandfather is about to abdicate and let your 3rd uncle inherit the position of patriarch. With the current prestige of the Changyang clan, the matter of passing on the position will definitely be extremely grand. There should be many experts participating on that day. Do you want to go and take a look? A woman beside the young man said. Her voice was pleasant and as beautiful as the heavens themselves. Big sister Xiao Qian, big sister Xiao Yu. Let's go and take a look. After all, that's my 3rd uncle. Moreover, I should be able to see my grandfather and grandmother during my 3rd uncle's ascension ceremony, the young man said with a somewhat complicated expression. The young man was Shangwan Aojin. The 2 women beside him were the other 2 saints of 3 Saint Island. They were also the disciples of the heavenly enchantress, Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Chapter 1576. This was a desolate world with a gloomy sky. There was no sun, moon, or stars in the sky. The ground was barren, and as far as the eye could see, the vast plains were devoid of life. It was filled with deathly stillness. At this moment, a young man who seemed to be in his 20s sat on the barren land in the center of the world. 2 swords that were over a meter long hovered before the young man. They shone with violet and azure light. A ball of flames burned in the young man's hand, radiating with terrifying heat. He was refining the 2 glowing swords. At a closer glance, it would not be difficult to discover that the 2 swords were covered in tiny cracks. The cracks were extremely dense, spreading out like a spider's web, covering the entire sword. At this moment, the 2 cracked swords actually began to slowly heal under the terrifying flames in the young man's hand. Although the healing was not particularly fast, the cracks on the 2 swords would completely vanish if this continued. The young man was Jianshin. He had already spent 3 whole years there. Of course, those 3 years were only in terms of the outside world. However, in this hazy world, there was no sun, moon, or stars, so there was naturally no difference between day and night. He could not sense the flow of time at all in such an environment, because the landscape seemed to remain unchanged. He would not even know how much time had passed once he entered seclusion. During these 3 years, Jianshin and Shangwan Mu had always absorbed the yin and yang qi from the yin-yang saint rock to cultivate. As a result, both Jianshin and Shangwan Mu's strength increased at a tremendous rate. In particular, Shangwan Mu's strength increased so quickly that she had even surpassed Jianshin's. Jianshin's chaotic body remained at the 5th layer. Although the energy he had absorbed in the past 3 years was not enough for him to reach the 6th layer, his chaotic Naiden had reached major achievement. If he continued to cultivate at this rate, he would break through to the 6th layer very soon. As the energy required to break through to the next layer would increase by 10 times, Jinshin's cultivation would become more and more difficult as his chaotic body progressed. Jinshin sat there and burned his chaotic force to turn into chaotic flames to repair the twin swords. Even though the fusion had failed, it had still damaged the twin swords. Even the sword spirits had weakened as a result. However, the damage was not extremely severe. He only needed some time to reforge the swords, and he could repair the cracks in the twin swords. Jinshin had no idea how long it took him to repair the twin swords in this world where he could not sense the flow of time. In the end, all the cracks on the twin swords vanished. Aside from the sword spirits still being rather weak, the two swords seemed the same as when they had just been forged. They shone with a dazzling violet and azure light. After the twin swords were repaired, Jinshin stood up from the ground. Stepping on the Zing sword, he shot off into the distance as a resplendent violet streak of light. In the blink of an eye, Jinshin arrived several dozen kilometers away. A small, earthen hut stood silently on the desolate ground. It seemed ordinary, but it pulsed with powerful energy. Shangwan Mu had used an ability to grow this earthen hut out of the ground. As a result, this seemingly ordinary hut possessed extremely great defense. Jinshin stared at the hut from outside. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate the walls and see what was inside. A sliver of tenderness appeared on his face at that moment. Mu still hasn't refined the yin and yang qi. Looks like I'll have to wait a little longer, Jinshin thought. He had already grown accustomed to waiting over the past 3 years. Due to his chaotic body, he could refine the yin and yang qi extremely quickly. However, Shangwan Mu needed several times more time than Jinshin to completely refine the energy. If Jinshin only needed 3 days to refine the yin and yang qi, Shangwan Mu would need 10 days or even half a month. Jinshin would not have dared to absorb the yin and yang qi in the yin-yang Saint Rock without Shangwan Mu. Otherwise, only death would await him. As a result, before Shangwan Mu completely refined the energy, Jinshin could only wait patiently. However, at this moment, the door to the hut slowly opened, and Shangwan Mu appeared at the entrance. She made her way out slowly. Mu, you've emerged. Jinshin immediately smiled. Shangwan Mu smiled sweetly. Her smile immediately made the world pale and flowers wither. Even with Jinshin's willpower, he could not help but become stunned. I've already reached returnance. If this continues, I'll be able to reach reciprocity in just a few years, Shangwan Mu smiled. She was rather excited. After spending 3 years together, Shangwan Mu had completely forgotten about her past unhappiness. Her feelings for Jinshin rapidly increased, and she had truly accepted Jinshin as her husband. Moreover, Shangwan Mu was no longer cold and arrogant. Perhaps it was because of Jinshin's influence, or perhaps it was because of the change in her relationship with her father, Hao Wu. But Shangwan Mu had let go of the knot in her heart and gradually became more cheerful. Although she still could not compare to other lively women, she would smile from time to time at the very least. This would have been extremely rare in the past. My chaotic body is about to break through to the 6th layer as well. Jinshin smiled faintly before making his way to the yin-yang Saint Rock with Shangwan Mu. When Jinshin arrived at the rock, he immediately frowned when he saw it. His face became stern as well. He stared at the rock for quite a while before saying, "Oh no, the evil power is absorbing the rock faster and faster," Jinshin said sternly. Shangwan Mu became extremely stern at that moment as well. She stared at the red light hidden within the yin-yang Saint Rock with her enchanting eyes. She sensed that something was wrong. She understood the power of the yin-yang Saint Rock extremely well. It was just 2 tiny black and white stones, but the terrifying energy within them was enough to shock any Origin Realm expert. The evil power would definitely grow at an astonishing rate as it absorbed the yin and yang qi hidden within the yin-yang Saint Rock. If this continued, she struggled to imagine just how powerful the evil power would become once it broke free. Jinshin, what should we do? Are we just going to let the evil power continue to grow like this? Shangwan Mu said. She was also very stern. Both she and Jianshan were extremely fearful of this evil power, because just a single glance at the red light within the Yin-Yang Saint Rock was enough to send chills down their spines. The two of them had seen many experts along the way, especially Jianshan. They had even faced the Divine King before, but even the Divine King did not give them such an intense feeling. Jianshan shook his head powerlessly. There's nothing we can do. We can't touch the rock. The evil power is hidden in the rock, so we can only watch as it rapidly grows. The only thing we can do is absorb as much yin and yang qi as possible to reduce the difference in strength between us and the evil power. Jianshan was extremely certain that the evil power was the source of the crisis of the world. Although he possessed the primordial god Silk, he had no idea how to use it, nor did he know how to use the primordial god Silk. Even when he went to the sword spirits, they were unable to provide him with an answer. The only thing he was certain about was that the power of the primordial god Silk would awaken from its slumber at a crucial moment. Under the threat of the evil power, Jianshan and Shangwanmu did not dare to waste any time. They immediately began to absorb the yin and yang qi in the yin-yang Saint Rock before using dual cultivation to balance it out. The absorption lasted for 3 days. 3 days later, the two of them left and entered seclusion to refine the energy in their bodies. Jianshan's chaotic body had reached major accomplishment in the past 3 years. Coupled with the absorption of the yin and yang qi, his chaotic body had finally broken through to the 6th layer. His body experienced the painful refinement of breaking through once again, causing his chaotic body to become even more powerful. The 6th layer of the chaotic body is equivalent to the 9th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. Jianshan silently sensed his own strength. According to his familiarity with the classification of cultivation realms on the Tianyuan continent, he immediately determined that it was the 6th layer of the chaotic body. The 9th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor was nowhere close to Shangwanmu Er's strength at returnance. However, Jianshan believed that his battle prowess at the 6th layer of the chaotic body was far greater than that at the 5th layer. When he fought Xiongzhong at the 5th layer of the chaotic body, he had barely managed to come to a draw. He had even slightly lost the upper hand. In the end, he had relied on the recovery of Class 9, Radiant Saint Force, to defeat Xiongzhong in terms of endurance. Chapter 1577. He had reached the 6th layer of the chaotic body, but clearly, that was not enough to fend off the world of Forsaken Saints. Jianshan also understood that as his strength increased, the strength of his enemies might increase as well. Moreover, his final opponent was not Ouyang Yangwan, but the Spirit King, who had reached reciprocity and was no weaker than godhood. Godhood, Jianshan murmured. His eyes shone brightly as they were filled with yearning. He knew that it was extremely difficult for him to reach godhood with the chaotic body in a lower world, but he had the Yin-Yang Saint Rock here. With the assistance of the rock, reaching godhood was not impossible. He would just need quite some time. Afterwards, Jianshan began to wait in boredom. However, Jianshan was unwilling to waste any time. Even if he could not absorb the energy from the rock, he would use the time to cultivate and comprehend the way of the sword, as well as the various sword techniques that the sword spirits had passed on to him. Today was the day that the Patriarch of Changyang Prefecture in Lore City of the Kingdom of Jessen on the Tianyuan continent, Changyang Ba, would step down. He would pass the position to his third son, Changyang Ke. The matter of the new Patriarch of Changyang Prefecture had caused an uproar on the Tianyuan continent several days ago. Basically, everyone knew about it. Experts from the 4 races of the Tianyuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Sea Realm, and the Wasteland continent had all traveled tens of millions of kilometers to congratulate the new Patriarch of Changyang Prefecture with heavy gifts. A few experts had already arrived in Changyang Prefecture before the blazing sun had even appeared on the horizon. As time went on, more and more people from the 4 races gradually gathered in Changyang Prefecture. These people were all renowned figures in their respective territories. There were even quite a few holy emperors among them. Basically, all the holy emperors of the 4 races had broken through, because of Jinshin's gift of violet cloud peaches. As a result, all the Holy Emperor experts owed Jinshin a great favor. They would never be able to repay this favor to Jinshin, but they could repay it to his clan. As a result, so many Holy Emperors had personally come to congratulate the replacement of the Patriarch of Chanyang Prefecture. All of this glory was because of Jinshin. Very soon, Chanyang Prefecture was filled to the brim, because there were just too many people present, and many of them possessed great statuses. The hall in Chanyang Prefecture was unable to accommodate so many people, even if it had been expanded several times over. As a result, Chanyangba arranged for the replacement ceremony to be held in the large courtyard. The Holy Emperor had already condensed a platform with earth-attributed saint force in the large courtyard. Right now, the platform was empty. Many Holy Emperors and the leaders of large clans and organizations were still standing below. Before the replacement ceremony began, even though Chanyangba was Jinshin's father, it was not appropriate for him to sit on the main seat before so many Holy Emperors and leaders of large clans and organizations. The Elven Queen of the Elves of the Wasteland Continent has arrived. She presents the greatest treasure of the elves, 100 droplets of dew of life. The host's voice constantly rang out. Every time it rang out, many people would cry out in surprise. 100 droplets of dew of life. The Elven Queen sure is generous. The dew of life is the greatest treasure of the elves. It said that only a single droplet is produced every 100 years. Although it can increase strength, every single droplet is filled with tremendous life force. Even if you're on the brink of death, a single droplet of dew of life can easily save you. It's also said that the dew of life can change the constitution of people, allowing them to be reborn. A single droplet of dew of life is a priceless treasure. It's difficult to measure its value, because only the elves can produce something like that. The Elven Queen has actually taken out 100 droplets this time. That's 10,000 years of stock. The Dwarven Patriarch of the Wasteland Continent has arrived. He presents a 100,000-year-old heavenly resource and 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. The Pung Emperor of the Beast God Continent has arrived. He presents 300,000-year-old heavenly resources and 10 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. The clan leader of the Tiger Tribe from the Beast God Continent has arrived. He presents 500,000-year-old heavenly resources, 20 10,000-year-old heavenly resources, several thousand-year-old heavenly resources, 1 Class 9 Monster Core, 5 Class 8 Monster Cores, and 1 Cub of the Tiger Tribe. As the Tiger Patriarch's gifts were announced, the people gathered in Chanyang Prefecture immediately began to discuss. Many of them sighed in amazement. The Tiger Patriarch's gifts were actually more than the Holy Emperor of the Pung clan, Sanqiao. He had even given away the royal tiger cub, which was equivalent to gifting his descendants to Chanyang Prefecture. The Tiger Patriarch has his own difficulties. Back then, the Tiger Emperor had offended the winged tiger and even tried to harm the winged tiger. It said that the winged tiger's father was killed by the Tiger Emperor. The Tiger Patriarch is afraid that the winged tiger would vent his anger on the Tiger Clan, which is why he tried everything he could to climb up to Chanyang Prefecture. He wants to use the power of Chanyang Prefecture to protect his clansmen. After all, the Tiger Emperor had caused a great disaster back then. Even the extinction of the Tiger Clan would not be enough to make up for it, the Holy Emperor of the humans said softly. He looked at the Tiger Patriarch with a sliver of sympathy. The Tiger Emperor's attempt to murder the winged tiger had nothing to do with the Tiger Clan. However, it was exactly because the Tiger Emperor was a member of the Tiger Clan and the king of the Tiger Clan that the Tiger Clan was implicated as well. Among the humans, the entire clan would be wiped out if one wanted to kill the ruler of a country. However, the Tiger Emperor had tried to kill the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger. According to the traditions of the magical beasts, that was enough to wipe out the entire clan. Although the Tiger Emperor was dead and the winged tiger had no intentions of doing anything to the Tiger Clan, the Tiger Patriarch still felt uneasy. He wanted to cling onto the great tree that was the Chanyang Prefecture in a hurry. The entire Tiger Clan had put in a lot of effort to use the opportunity of Chanyang Ku's ascension. They had basically given away everything of value in the clan. The ancestral emperor of the Felicity Empire has arrived. He has presented 3 heaven-tier battle skills, 1 saint-tier cultivation method, and 3 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. The patriarch of the Tianmu clan has arrived. He has presented 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. The great elder of the Tyrant Blade School has arrived. He has presented the envoy of the Poseidon Hall has arrived. He has presented all the people of the 4 races had gathered for the succession of the provincial lord. Although the sainthood experts of the Sea Realm were unable to come as they remained in the Supreme Divine Hall, they had sent envoys to congratulate the new lord on behalf of their clans. Every single one of them had brought with them heavy gifts. There were countless heavenly resources, battle skills, cultivation methods, and so on. Just a single gift was enough for the Chanyang Prefecture to receive an inestimable amount of wealth. Chanyang Ba and Chanyang Ku also greeted everyone with smiles. As the only grandson of Chanyang Ba had always doted on Chanyang Su. He had been nurturing Chanyang Su since he was young. Coupled with Chanyang Su's current accomplishments, Chanyang Ba loved his grandson even more. Chanyang Ba had brought Chanyang Su with him for this event. Whenever he greeted the guests of great status, he would always introduce Chanyang Su. His face was filled with uncontainable pride. Chanyang Su had become a great saint master at the age of 20. Even on the Tianyuan continent, very few people could match his cultivation speed. Coupled with his background as Chanyang Ba's grandson, the guests of great status praised him endlessly. There were even quite a few people who suggested that their great-granddaughters, who were the same age as Chanyang Su, should be married off. Chanyang Su's face became filled with uncontainable pride when he heard the praises of these people. Although he remained polite before these important people, he had already become arrogant before people of the same age. He even looked down on a few hermit clans. Chanyang Su did not care about the marriage either. His great background and talent made him extremely arrogant. In his opinion, although there were a few holy emperors among these people, their great-granddaughters were many generations removed from him. He had no idea just how many great-granddaughters they had. Perhaps there were several dozen or several hundred. After all, it was very common for people who had lived for several thousand years to have over 10,000 direct descendants. On the other hand, he was the only son of the patriarch of the Chanyang clan. How could the children of large clans, who were separated by countless generations, be worthy of him? Moreover, these holy emperors had all broken through because of his uncle. Is he my grandfather? The person beside him should be my third uncle, Chanyang Ku. Is the young man beside grandfather my younger brother, Chanyang Su? Shangguan Aojian murmured to himself in a voice that only he could hear as he stared at Chanyang Ba and the others from afar. Although Shangguan Aojian had once come to Lore City for training and had heard about his father's deeds, he had never personally seen his grandparents. That's right, Xiao Bao. That person is your grandfather, Chanyang Ba. However, we've only heard about your third uncle from time to time. We've never seen him before. After all, your third uncle has always kept a low profile. Xiao Qian gently smiled beside Shangguan Aojian. Xiao Bao, do you want to go and reunite with your grandfather? Look at your third uncle's son. He's only a great saint master, yet your grandfather loves him so much. If your grandfather knew that he had such an outstanding grandson like you, he'd probably be overjoyed, Xiao Yu also said. She used a communication technique to send her voice directly into Xiao Bao's ears. She did not want anyone else to hear her. Shangguan Aojian shook his head. My father isn't here, and neither is my mother. Under these circumstances, do you think anyone would believe me if I said that I was Jinshan's son? Moreover, no one knows about the relationship between my father and mother. I even suspect that even my grandparents don't know about this. Chapter 1578. At this moment, a few luxuriously dressed young men who seemed to be in their 20s had gathered together in a sneaky manner near Shangguan Aojian. They all looked at Shangguan Aojian's group of 3 through the crowd. However, their gazes were gathered on Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu most of the time. They all revealed stunned expressions, and there were even traces of infatuation in the eyes of 2 people. Hua Fanyun, Lu Qing, Zhou Xiaohua. Allah, Duogong. Do you see those two women? They're rare beauties. I never thought I'd come across such good stuff in Changyang Prefecture with my great-grandfather, said a young man in a deep voice. A young man said softly. He wore azure robes and had an elegant appearance. He was extremely handsome, but he seemed slightly frivolous. His gaze towards Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu was filled with infatuation. Of course I saw them. Speaking of which, I've played with a lot of beautiful women since I was young. Many of them are not inferior to the two women in front of me. However, compared to the two women in front of me, I always feel that something is missing. Moreover, from the moment I saw these two women, I suddenly felt that all the women I've played with in the past had turned into rouge powder in an instant. Zhou Xiaohua patted the fan in his hand and stared at Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu through the occasional gap in the crowd. Idiot. That's because the two of them possess an otherworldly presence. They seem like goddesses filled with a sense of holiness. Even though the women you've played with in the past possessed great beauty, they didn't possess this presence at all, said Lu Qing beside Zhou Xiaohua. Lu Qing, who was beside Zhou Xiaohua, said, These youths who had gathered together were all disciples of great powers and clans. If they were not from the royal family of the three great empires, they were from ancient aristocratic families. Their statuses were extraordinary. And who's that young man? Which organization does he belong to? He actually has two beautiful women by his side. I'm so envious. If I had two women like that serving me, I'd even be willing to give up on the position of crown prince, said Huafanyan. Huafanyan said. His gaze toward Shangguan Aojian was filled with envy, as well as some undisguised jealousy. Aladagon stared at Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu without blinking. His eyes were filled with desire, and saliva was about to drip from the corner of his mouth. He had played with many women in the past, but he had never met anyone with such a temperament. Compared to the two women before him, all the women he had played with in the past were simply plain rouge. I have to find a way to take those two women back. Ala Duogong rubbed his hands together. He liked Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu more and more the more he looked at them. At the same time, he was confident that he possessed the qualifications to do so because he came from an ancient clan and the ancestor of his clan was one of the few holy emperors on the Tianyuan continent. Huafanyan slapped Ala Duogong's head and scolded him with a smile. Duogong, why don't you take a look at where you are? We're in Changyang Prefecture, not your Ala clan. It's impossible for those two women to end up in our hands. Let's go tell young Master Su about this. His father is about to become the patriarch of Changyang Prefecture, and young Master Su is the only son of the patriarch. At that time, he'll become the young master of Changyang Prefecture. He'll become the patriarch sooner or later, so we should use this opportunity to strengthen our relationship with young Master Su. It'll be extremely beneficial for us when we get to the position of patriarch in the future. With that, Huafanyan pulled out a white piece of jade from his space ring. With a squeeze of his hand, the jade was immediately crushed to pieces. Huafanyan had already known Changyang Su for several years. As a member of the imperial family of an empire, he had been influenced by his clan since he was young. He was rather skilled at forming cliques and factions to strengthen his position and expand his influence. For the sake of his future battle for the position of crown prince, he had done everything he could to befriend Changyang Su. After several years, he had finally managed to establish a relationship with Changyang Su. Although Changyang Su had never treated him as a member of the imperial family seriously, Huafanyan did not mind. He continued to behave like a yes-man before Changyang Su. In his opinion, as long as he could cling to Changyang Su, he would even have enough power to participate in the battle for the throne in the future. He would even be able to emerge victorious in the end. At this moment, Changyang Su was following beside Changyang Ba in a grand manner. He constantly asked the representatives of the various large clans and organizations questions. Before these seniors, Changyang Su seemed extremely obedient. He constantly bowed to them and called them seniors. At this moment, Changyang Su's face changed. He had already sensed that one of the twin stones in his space ring had shattered. He had given the other one to Huafanyan. Huafanyan had always been by his side in the past few years. He basically listened to everything Changyang Su said. Gradually, The prideful Changyang Su began to acknowledge Hua Fanyun's existence. He even gave him a piece of the twin stone so that he could use it for important matters. However, although Changyang Su acknowledged Hua Fanyun, he did not treat Hua Fanyun as a friend. He treated Hua Fanyun as a follower most of the time. Why is Hua Fanyun looking for me at a time like this? Changyang Su was curious, but he clearly could not leave at a time like this. Finally, close to noon, the ceremony for handing over the position of Patriarch of Changyang Prefecture was about to begin. Changyang Ba and Changyang Ku appeared on the stage as well. Only now did Changyang Su finally have the time to meet with Hua Fanyun and the others. As soon as he saw Changyang Su appear, Hua Fanyun immediately lost his dignity as a member of the imperial family. He greeted Changyang Su with a wide smile and fawning over him. He told Changyang Su about the two beauties he had met earlier in detail. At that moment, let alone Hua Fanyun, even the other members of the large clans and organizations with Hua Fanyun dismissed their arrogance before Changyang Su. They surrounded Changyang Su with fawning expressions as well, as if Changyang Su had become their master at that moment. Changyang Su stood there emotionlessly. His sharp gaze would sweep through the surroundings from time to time, giving him a dignified presence. After hearing Hua Fanyun and the others' descriptions, he asked in a rather doubtful tone, "Are the two women really as stunning as you described them to be?" Changyang Su remained unmoved. He had seen far too many beautiful women, especially in the past few years. Who knew how many large clans and organizations had come to propose marriage? Every single one of them was stunning, but Changyang Su did not take an interest in them at all. He felt that none of them were worthy of him. Although they were all stunning, he believed that he could get any woman he wanted with his current status and status. He only needed to wave his hand, and a large number of them would come to him obediently. It's absolutely true. If you don't believe me, we'll take you there right now. We definitely won't disappoint you. Only someone like that is worthy of someone like you, young Master Su. The young men immediately led Changyang Su into the crowd and made their way in Shangguan Aojian's direction. Along the way, all the guests who blocked the way would nod with a smile when they saw Changyang Su. They would then move out of the way in an extremely conscientious manner. Very soon, Changyang Su found Shangguan Aojian under the lead of the young men. However, when his gaze landed on Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu, he was immediately deeply attracted to them. He was unable to shift his gaze away. "Young Master Su, how was it? I didn't disappoint you, right?" Hua Fanyun smiled from one side. He knew that his actions this time had greatly increased his status in Changyang Su's heart when he saw Changyang Su's expression. Good, good, good. Hua Fanyun, you really didn't disappoint me this time." Changyang Su praised Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu 3 times in a row. The moment he saw them, he had been deeply enthralled by their otherworldly presence. He had never seen such a presence from any woman before. Hua Fanyun immediately became overjoyed when he heard Changyang Su's praise. He could not stop chuckling. Changyang Su strode toward Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Only Shangguan Aojian was ignored by him. Shangguan Aojian seemed to sense something as he stood in the crowd. He suddenly turned his head and stared at Changyang Su, who was making his way over. He could not help but faintly smile. But very soon, Shangguan Aojian's smile gradually froze. This was because he discovered that Changyang Su's eyes were fixated on his 2 sisters. Changyang Su arrived before Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. He clasped his fist at the 2 of them and said, "Beautiful ladies, I am Changyang Su. Changyang Ku is my father. I represent the Changyang Prefecture in welcoming the 2 of you to my father's ceremony." Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu revealed strange expressions when they heard that. They both looked at Shangguan Aojian and ignored Changyang Su. On the other hand, Shangguan Aojian's face darkened. It was as ugly as it could get. A vicious light gradually appeared in his eyes as he looked at Changyang Su. Changyang Su frowned slightly when he saw how Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu ignored him and instead looked at Shangguan Aojian, who he did not take seriously at all. He became displeased. In his opinion, they should have immediately reported their identities and names since he had taken the initiative to befriend them as the young master of the Changyang Prefecture. "Young Master Su is talking to you. Don't you have ears?" Before Su could reply, a young man behind him said with a deep voice. His gaze was very unfriendly. However, his words angered Shangguan Aojian. Shangguan Aojian's gaze immediately sharpened as he coldly said, "If you dare to say something like that again, I'll cut off your tongue in front of everyone. Even your great-grandfather won't be able to save you then." The young man immediately shrunk his neck when he heard that. He no longer dared to say anything else. Chanyang Prefecture was filled with experts right now. People from all four races had come to congratulate him. He really was afraid that he would accidentally offend a large organization that even his clan could not afford to offend. Although he was trying to befriend Su, he was unwilling to offend another peak organization. However, the young man before him, who he did not know, was bold enough to say something like that in front of so many people. Without a doubt, he came from a peak organization. The young men beside Su were all intimidated by Shangguan Aojian's words. They all stood behind Su obediently. They were unwilling to offend him so easily before they understood his identity. They obviously left the rest to Su. After all, he was the young master of the Chanyang Prefecture. With his background in the Chanyang Prefecture, he did not need to fear any organization in the world. "Sir, who might you be?" Su coldly asked. Although he had guessed that the young man before him possessed an extraordinary identity, he did not take it to heart because he was the young master of the Chanyang Prefecture, as well as Chanyang Ba's most beloved and only grandson. "I'm your brother," Shangguan Aojian coldly replied. His face became rather sunken. Originally, he still held a sliver of hope for his younger brother whom he had never seen before, but only now did he realize that his younger brother had disappointed him far too much. Chapter 1579. Shangguan Aojian was confident when he said that. In reality, his father, Jianshun, and Su's father were brothers. Shangguan Aojian was a few years older than Su, so it was only natural for him to be Su's older brother. This was something that could not be doubted. However, the meaning of Shangguan Aojian's words completely changed when they reached Su's ears. They became a provocation, or even a form of humiliation. Su was the young master of Chanyang Prefecture. His status was great, and coupled with the fact that he had been extremely arrogant since he was young, how could he tolerate Shangguan Aojian's words that were basically a form of humiliation? Suddenly, Su's entire presence changed. At that moment, he seemed like an unsheathed sword, shining brightly. A powerful presence accompanied him. Of course, this was only in comparison to people of the same age. The presence he gave off as a great Saint Master was not worth mentioning in the Chanyang Prefecture that was filled with experts. However, Su's presence did attract the attention of many people in Chanyang Prefecture, but they did not treat it as anything important. In the eyes of the old monsters who had lived for several thousand years, this was just a small quarrel between children. Chanyang Ba and Chanyang Ko obviously noticed this as well, but they were on the stage right now. Under the gazes of everyone present, they obviously could not interfere with the quarrel between the younger generation. "Sir, what did you just say? Do you dare to say it again?" Su glared at Shangguan Aojian. He had already locked on a Shangguan Aojian's presence. He seemed like he would start fighting at any moment. Shangguan Aojian stood there leisurely with his arms crossed. His lips curled into a mocking smile, but there was some coldness in his hawk-like eyes. He calmly said, "Brother, you actually dare to threaten your brother. I'm your brother. May I ask what you plan on doing next?" Shangguan Aojian spoke very indifferently, but he gently sighed inside. He had heard about his younger brother long ago. He found him to be extremely impressive for his younger brother to achieve such accomplishments at such a young age. Originally, he still held a sliver of hope for his younger brother whom he had never met before, but after coming to Chanyang Prefecture today, Su's performance time and time again had left him disappointed. "Why, how bold of you! I don't care who you are or where you come from. How dare you cause trouble in our Chanyang Prefecture and provoke our Chanyang Prefecture? I won't let you off so easily today. The dignity of our Chanyang Prefecture cannot be violated." Su was furious. His face had become extremely sunken as a cold light flickered through it. He had never thought that the young man before him would be so bold. He did not care about his status as the young master of the prefecture at all and dared to step on his head. How could Chanyang-su, who had been pampered since he was young, tolerate this? With a flip of his hand, powerful saint force suddenly surged out, quickly condensing into a saint weapon in his right hand. He stabbed it toward Shangwan Aojian mercilessly. Other people in Chanyang Prefecture might not have dared to do anything out of fear of Chanyang Prefecture's dignity, but Chanyang-su was not afraid. This was because the prefecture lord was his grandfather, and his father was about to become the prefecture lord as well. With how much his grandfather and father spoiled him, he was confident that he would not be punished at all even if he caused any trouble. At most, he would be scolded a little. With the current prestige of Chanyang Prefecture, there was nothing that could not be resolved. Moreover, he knew that all the holy emperors in the world still owed his uncle a favor. Even if the young man had the support of a holy emperor, the holy emperors would not dare to say anything. Many of the sainthood experts gathered in the surroundings watched on from the side. None of them planned on interfering because they also felt that Shangwan Aojian had gone a little too far with what he had said. However, there were many people who guessed the identities of Xiao Bao's group. They were actually bold enough to provoke the young master of Chanyang Prefecture in public, and even shamelessly call themselves Chanyang-su's elder brother. Although Shangwan Aojian seemed to be slightly older than Chanyang-su, he could not just casually call Chanyang-su his younger brother. After all, the difference in status between the two of them was just too great. Shangwan Aojian continued to stand there with his arms crossed. He had no intentions of dodging Chanyang-su's attack. However, the moment Chanyang-su stabbed out, Shangwan Aojian's gaze became even colder. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu stood there leisurely as well. They looked at Shangwan Aojian and Chanyang-su with interest and would gently chuckle from time to time. "Su'er, don't be rude." When Chanyang-su's sword was only 3 inches away from Shangwan Aojian, a dignified voice rang out. At the same time, the space around Chanyang-su froze, immobilizing him and his saint weapon. Chanyang-su had even used his saint weapon. Chanyang-ba could no longer ignore the situation like before, so he interfered to stop Chanyang-su. "Grandfather, let go of me. This brat dares to insult me. I have to properly teach him a lesson today, or I won't be able to accept it," Chanyang-su called out loudly. Chanyang-su said loudly and reluctantly. He did not care at all. His gaze toward Shangwan Aojian was filled with a sense of superiority. "Su'er, shut up. Today is the day of your father's ascension. As your father's son, you don't properly receive your esteemed guest and instead come into conflict with him. What are you doing? Why don't you apologize to the esteemed guest?" Chanyang-ba's face sank, and he became stern. "Grandfather, you have no idea. This ignorant person says he's my elder brother. He's basically insulting me. I'd rather die than apologize to someone like that," Chanyang-su said indignantly. Chanyang-su said angrily before turning his head to the side. He acted like he would rather die than apologize. Chanyang-ba felt helpless when he saw how Chanyang-su was behaving. As his only grandson, Chanyang-su had become the apple of his eye long ago. He had taken good care of him since he was young, so he could not beat him or scold him. If Chanyang-su really did become angry, he really would not be able to handle it as his grandfather. With no other choice, Chanyang-ba could only clasp his fist toward Shangwan Aojian, Xiao Qian, and Xiao Yu. He said rather apologetically, "My friends, I really am sorry. Su'er is naughty, so it's all our fault for not disciplining him properly. If he has offended you in any way, please forgive him. All right, may I ask where the 3 of you have come from? Once the ceremony is over, I will definitely get Kurer to personally come and apologize with great gifts. The patriarch is too polite. I am Xiao Qian from 3 Saint Island. Greetings to the patriarch. I am Xiao Yu from 3 Saint Island. Greetings to the patriarch." Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu both clasped their hands toward Chanyang-ba. They were extremely polite. "I am Shangwan Aojian from 3 Saint Island. Greetings to the patriarch." Shangwan Aojian also clasped his hands towards Chanyang-ba before bowing deeply. He was not bowing to the patriarch of Chanyang Prefecture, but to his grandfather. 3 Saint Island. They're actually from Three Saint Island. I've heard of Shao Qian and Xiao Yu. Aren't they the second and third island masters of Three Saint Island? I never thought that the two of them would actually be the second and third island masters of Three Saint Island. That's quite an impressive identity. It's said that the Heavenly Enchantress is the first island master of Three Saint Island. The second and third island masters are her disciples. Heavens, these two women are actually the disciples of sovereigns. No wonder they don't fear Changyang Prefecture. I never thought that even the two disciples of Sovereign would come to Changyang's coronation ceremony. As the identities of Shao Qian and Xiao Yu were revealed, it immediately caused quite a stir in Changyang Prefecture. At that moment, everyone's gazes toward the three of them changed. They were filled with envy. All the experts of the four races had already learned about Three Saint Island because the first island master, the Heavenly Enchantress, was an Origin Realm expert. Moreover, the Heavenly Enchantress had used her zither to control 5 Origin Realm experts during the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints, which had shocked everyone. In the eyes of sainthood experts, the Origin Realm experts were already sovereigns. They were unreachable, yet the Heavenly Enchantress was able to control the minds of 5 sovereigns. It was just too terrifying. Changyang Ba was surprised as well, but he soon began to laugh aloud. He walked off the stage with Changyang Ku and personally went to receive them. He smiled. So, with the second and third island masters of Three Saint Island, please forgive me for not coming out to receive you. Speaking of which, Three Saint Island isn't really an outsider to our Changyang Prefecture. I've heard Xiang'er mention Three Saint Island a lot in the past, and Xiang'er seems to have spent some time on Three Saint Island as well. The patriarch is right. Young Master Jinshin really did spend quite some time on Three Saint Island in the past, Shao Qian giggled. Shao Qian smiled. She glanced at Shangguan Aojian and seemed to be deep in thought. Afterward, she pointed at him and said, Patriarch, this is the young island master of our Three Saint Island. Young island master. Changyang Ba was surprised once again. He could not help but take a good look at Shangguan Aojian. However, a strange feeling appeared in his heart from that glance. Suddenly, he found the young man to be more and more pleasing to the eye. He liked him more and more the more he looked at him. The surrounding guests were all shocked when they learned that Shangguan Aojian was the young island master of Three Saint Island. This identity was no small matter. It was on par with Changyang Su's status in Changyang Prefecture. He was most likely the successor of the Heavenly Enchantress. Everyone understood now. Shangguan Aojian was the young island master of Three Saint Island. As the young master of Changyang Prefecture, it was only natural that he was the older brother of Changyang Su. After all, Shangguan Aojian's status was no lower than Changyang Su's, and he was clearly a few years older than Changyang Su. The young island master of Three Saint Island is just a title. If it weren't for my grandfather, I would have injured you already, Changyang Su said. He still did not treat Shangguan Aojian seriously. Changyang Ba's face suddenly sank. Just when he was about to reprimand Changyang Su, Shangguan Aojian's voice rang out first. Brother, you can't be too proud as a person, nor can you look down on others. You need to know that there is always someone better than you. You may have some accomplishments now, but they were all brought to you by your uncle. Shangguan Aojian, even if you're the young island master of Three Saint Island, you have no right to ride on my head. I obviously know that there is always someone better than me. At my age, I'm the one who is better than you. I am the one who is better than you. Not to mention that you can't even receive a single strike from me as the young island master. In this world, the weak will never have the right to speak. Changyang Su was extremely conceited. He firmly believed that he would have injured the young island master if it were not for his grandfather. Chapter 1580. A sliver of surprise appeared in Changyang Su's eyes. The young island master before him had actually said that he would just stand there and let him hit him without fighting back. He would lose if he could even touch a hair on the young island master's head. Changyang Su began to doubt whether he had heard wrong. Young island master, may I ask how long you've been cultivating? If you've already cultivated for over 100 years or even longer, it's only natural that I can't defeat you, Changyang Su said emotionlessly. If the young island master had cultivated for several hundred years, he would indeed not be able to touch a hair on his opponent. After all, he was only 20 years old. Sewer is right. Young island master himself has admitted that he is older than Sewer. The amount of time he has spent cultivating is definitely not something that Sewer can compare to. Even if Sewer were to lose to young island master, it would be a very normal thing. Chanyang Su's mother, Xie, walked over from afar. She smiled, giving off an amiable feeling. As Chanyang Ku's father, Xie had no choice but to put on an expression like this in a public setting. Shangguan Aojin sniggered. Brother, I may be older than you, but I'm only 3 or 4 years older than you. If you think that's unfair, how about this? I'll stand here without dodging, nor will I do anything to defend or block. You can display your full strength to Kea, including the battle skills you've comprehended. If you can even scratch a layer of my skin, I'll lose. How about that? Chanyang Su immediately stopped worrying when he heard Shangguan Aojin's age. However, his face became very ugly when he heard what Shangguan Aojin said at the end. He coldly said, "You sure are arrogant. Do you really think your body is made of steel? Even if it's made of steel, it's no different from mud before me. However, since you're so confident, I'll keep you company today. However, I think that if we add a little wager to the battle today, it might be even more interesting." Chanyang Su smiled mysteriously towards the end. A wager? Shangguan Aojin murmured softly. He could not help but smile strangely. Sure. I wonder what you'll be able to offer. With a flip of his hand, 5 wooden boxes appeared in Chanyang Su's hand. He said, I'll bet 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. If you win, they'll be yours. If you lose, I want you to leave behind all the cultivation methods and battle skills on the island. When the surrounding people heard Chanyang Su's wager, they immediately burst into laughter. 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources were very valuable, but they were not rare. They could even be bought for purple coins in some large auctions on the Tianyuan continent. On the other hand, the cultivation methods and battle skills of 3 Saint Island were truly priceless. Even a holy emperor would covet them. Almost everyone was certain that the young island master would not agree to Chanyang Su's ridiculous request. Moreover, he had blocked it in an extremely unfair manner. You want to use 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources to exchange for all the cultivation methods and battle skills on the island? That's a pretty good idea. However, I'll agree to it. Shangguan Aojin chuckled aloud. The surrounding sainthood experts all became stunned when they saw that Shangguan Aojin had actually agreed. Disbelief filled their faces. At that moment, none of them knew what to say. They really had no idea whether the young island master was just too arrogant or he really was that powerful. A few people had even begun to peek at Shangguan Aojin's strength. However, Shangguan Aojin possessed the innate chaotic body, so his cultivation system was completely different from the Tianyuan continents. Coupled with the fact that he was stronger than most of the people present, even the Holy Emperor was unable to tell Shangguan Aojin's exact strength. At this moment, Shangguan Aojin took out an extremely crude wooden box from his space ring at a steady pace. He said, "Brother, if you really win, not only will I agree to your request, but I'll even give this to you. If you lose, I don't want your heavenly resources, but you have to call me brother in front of everyone here." As he said that, Shangguan Aojin opened the wooden box. Immediately, a fist-sized violet peach appeared before everyone's eyes. All the sainthood experts present held their breaths when they saw the peach. They all widened their eyes in shock. Afterwards, many of their eyes began to burn with desire. There is a sliver of extremely well-hidden greed in their eyes. A violet cloud peach. It's actually a violet cloud peach. A single violet cloud peach is enough for the Holy Emperor to break through to Holy Emperor. The young island master is actually using a violet cloud peach as a wager. What a waste. Aside from Sovereign Jinshin, there's no one else in the world who can take out a violet cloud peach. It's a supreme treasure. Every single one of them is priceless. Young island master, how can you use something so valuable as a wager? You're far too impulsive. The appearance of the violet cloud peach immediately ignited the crowd like a barrel of gunpowder. It led to an uproar. Very few people could remain calm before the violet cloud peach. At the same time, a few people looked at Shangguan Aojian sternly after calming down. Not only did the young island master possess a violet cloud peach, but the second and third island masters did not stop him when he took it out as a wager. All of this clearly demonstrated that the two island masters were not afraid of losing Shangguan Aojian's violet cloud peach at all. Perhaps they did not believe that Shangguan Aojian would lose. Su has already lost, thought Jianshun. Chanyanba thought. He already knew the outcome of the battle even before it began. He even believed that the young island master had ingested a violet cloud peach. However, Chanyang Su failed to notice this problem. He stared at the violet cloud peach in Shangguan Aojian's hand, and his eyes became red. He knew that the violet cloud peach came from his uncle, but as the young master of the Chanyang clan, he had never even seen the legendary violet cloud peach, even though he had ingested many heavenly resources over the years, let alone obtain one. This was because even his grandfather did not have a second violet cloud peach. I have to win this battle. I have to win no matter what the price is. I have to obtain the violet cloud peach, thought Chanyang Su. Chanyang Su roared inside. The violet cloud peach was the only shortcut to sainthood. If he could obtain it, he would become an expert before long. Chanyang Su immediately moved. He wielded his saint weapon and aggressively charged toward Shangguan Aojian as a blur. His saint weapon was also a sword that was 2 fingers wide. It was wrapped in a layer of wind-attributed saint force. He stabbed it toward Shangguan Aojian's chest as quickly as he could. Shangguan Aojian smiled playfully. He stood there without dodging, nor did he use any energy to defend himself. He was like a live target. Chapter 1581. That's impossible. How can your body be so tough? It's even tougher than the bodies of high-class magical beasts. Chanyang Su stared at Shangguan Aojian in shock. Disbelief flooded his face. At that moment, he even began to suspect that Shangguan Aojian was actually a high-class magical beast in human form. Otherwise, how was he supposed to explain this result? Although Chanyang Su was only a great saint master, he had come into contact with sainthood experts since he was born in Chanyang Prefecture. At the same time, he gained a vague understanding of the strength of sainthood experts. However, in his understanding, even saint rulers would not be able to endure a full-powered strike from him without using saint force. Even the Holy Emperor would not be able to do so. Only magical beasts possessed such tough bodies. What a tough body. Aside from magical beasts, probably only Sovereign Jianshun possesses a body like that, an old man from the crowd said. His voice was filled with amazement. The old man's strength had reached the level of the Holy Emperor. I may not be able to see through the young island master's true strength, but I can tell that his strength has definitely exceeded all of our expectations. He really is from 3 Saint Island after all. He's only 23, yet he possesses such great strength. He's no weaker than Sovereign Jianshun in the past, said a middle-aged man. He was the ancestor of an ancient clan. His strength had reached the 9th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. The young island master is indeed a genius, but in old man's opinion, there's still a very large difference between the young island master and Sovereign Jianshun in the past. After all, Sovereign Jianshun relied on his own efforts to raise his strength step by step, unlike the young island master of 3 Saint Island and the young master of Chanyang Prefecture. The reason why their strength has increased so quickly is because of the assistance of their clans. At the same time, the young island master has probably consumed a violet cloud peach as well, a ruddy old man said nonchalantly. Many of the human sainthood experts in the surroundings clasped their fists when they saw the old man. Their faces were filled with respect. The old man was the holy emperor of the Peng clan, Sanqiong. Unlike the others, Sanqiong had become a holy emperor completely through his own efforts, unlike the other holy emperors who had basically all consumed a violet cloud peach. Later on, Sanqiong had consumed a violet cloud peach as well, so his current strength had reached the 9th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. There were only a few experts who had reached the 9th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor among the 4 races. Aside from the Holy Emperor of the Peng clan and the Hall Master of the Poseidon Hall, There were only Ada and his brothers. Now that the seal that prevented them from reaching the Origin Realm had vanished, the Six-Peak Holy Emperor experts had the potential to become sovereigns in the future. "Brother, do you concede or not?" Shangguan Aojin calmly asked as he stood there with his arms crossed. Changyang Su snorted coldly. "Even if you're the young island master of 3 Saint Island, you still don't have the right to ride on my head. I'd like to see if you can remain unscathed before my Earth Tier battle skill." With that, Changyang Su bellowed out. All the Saint force within him surged out, causing him to become enveloped in a dense layer of azure light. This was the light of wind-attributed Saint force. As the Earth Tier battle skill was used, a wild gale swept through the entire Changyang prefecture. Sand and pebbles were kicked into the air as dust filled the air. At this moment, Changyang Ba casually waved his right hand. With that, all the sand and dust that had been kicked into the air vanished. He looked at Changyang Su and nodded in satisfaction. He thought, "Not bad. I never thought that Su'er would have comprehended a high Earth Tier battle skill to such a level." Wind Shadow Strike. After charging up for a while, Changyang Su finally completely used his Earth Tier battle skill. He seemed to have fused with the wind as he shot toward Shangguan Aojian with lightning-like speed that completely exceeded what great Saint Masters should possess. The wind-attributed Saint force on his Saint weapon had been compressed to the limit. Bang! With a heavy sound, Changyang Su's Earth Tier battle skill landed firmly on Shangguan Aojian. It erupted with quite a powerful pulse of energy. Changyang Su was clearly unable to endure the pulse of energy as a great Saint Master. He was constantly pushed back as his face became rather pale. Clearly, using a high Earth Tier battle skill was not easy for him. However, Changyang Su did not care about himself at all. He stared fixedly at Shangguan Aojian as his eyes were filled with eagerness. He hoped that Shangguan Aojian would be injured by his attack. As long as he was injured, even if it was just a tiny bit, he would win according to their agreement. The Violet Cloud Peach would become his spoils. However, in the next moment, Changyang Su became stunned. Disbelief filled his eyes. Shangguan Aojian remained unscathed after enduring his full-powered Earth Tier battle skill with his body. Even when Changyang Su used his most powerful battle prowess, he was unable to leave a single mark on Shangguan Aojian. "Impossible! This is impossible. You cheated. You must have cheated." Changyang Su cried out rather crazily. He was unable to accept this reality. The young island master was only 3 or 4 years older than him, yet he actually possessed such terrifying strength. He was unable to do anything to Shangguan Aojian with just his body. This was an extremely heavy blow to the arrogant Changyang Su. A Violet Cloud Peach. Yes, a Violet Cloud Peach. You must have eaten a Violet Cloud Peach, which is why you possess such strength. This isn't fair. If I had a Violet Cloud Peach, you definitely wouldn't be my opponent, Changyang Su loudly called out. Changyang Su called out. At that moment, he suddenly felt envious. He was so envious that his eyes had almost turned red. At the same time, he became more and more dissatisfied with his uncle. He thought, "Uncle is far too biased. He'd rather give the Violet Cloud Peach to an outsider than leave one for me." Shangguan Aojian, there's nothing for you to be proud of. You may have defeated me, but you only increased your strength because of the Violet Cloud Peach. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been my opponent. Changyang Su refused to accept this. Even now, he was still extremely arrogant and did not know how to restrain himself. Shangguan Aojian did not become angered. He said, "Brother, why don't you think about it? If it weren't for the fact that you have a clan supporting you with everything they have, would you still be able to reach your current accomplishments? If all the resources used on you were given to someone else, they would be able to reach your current accomplishments at your age. I admit that I can't reach my current level without the Violet Cloud Peach and various heavenly resources, but aren't you the same? There's nothing to be proud of." Chapter 1582. The Young Island Master is right. Su'er, you've been too proud and complacent all these years. Look at the young island master. He possesses such strength at such a young age. Yet he has always kept it a secret. No one knows about it, and he treats fame and fortune like dirt. If it weren't for what happened in the manor today, I think the young island master's strength would have continued to be hidden. You should learn more from the young island master. No matter how brilliant and dazzling your achievements are, you shouldn't be arrogant and complacent. Just like what the young island master said earlier, there will always be someone better, and there will always be someone better. You must remember this in your heart. Changyang walked over and gently spoke to Changyang Su before turning his head to Shangwan Aojin. His eyes were filled with undisguised admiration. I seem to see Xiang'er's shadow in the past on the young island master. Xiang'er liked to hide himself very much when he was young. He never showed off his talent. Afterwards, he made a mistake during the Saint Force test, mistaking Xiang'er as a cripple who couldn't cultivate Saint Force. Xiang'er could have explained himself back then, but he didn't. He didn't care what others thought of him at all. Instead, he quietly stayed in the clan and cultivated. Only when he clashed with a worker in the kitchen did Xiang'er reveal his strength. The thing that I, Changyang Ba, am most proud of is having a child like Xiang'er. The reason why our Chanyang prefecture is as glorious as it is today is all because of Xiang'er. If it weren't for Xiang'er, there would be no Chanyang prefecture today. Changyang Ba could not help but sigh emotionally. In particular, Changyang Ba felt a strange fondness for Jinshin when he looked at Shangwan Aojin's face that made him feel extremely close to him. This was because he truly saw a shadow of Jinshin's past on Shangwan Aojin. Shangwan Aojin said nothing. He focused on listening to Changyang Ba talk about Jinshin's past. It was as long as it was related to Jinshin, he would be extremely interested, regardless of how important or minor the matter was. He did not want to miss out on a single word. The only pity was that Changyang Ba only spoke about Jinshin's childhood. What happened after that? Shangwan Aojin could not help but ask when he saw that Changyang Ba had no intentions of continuing. Changyang Ba smiled at Xiang'er and said, "The young island master seems to be very interested in some of Xiang'er's past." Shangwan Aojin nodded and did not deny it. "Whatever. I feel like old friends with the young island master at first sight. Since the young island master is so interested in Xiang'er's past, why don't you stay in the clan for a few more days after the ceremony is over?" Changyang Ba chuckled. He discovered that he liked the young island master of 3 Saint Island more and more. "Then the two of us will have to trouble you for a few more days," Shangwan Aojin happily agreed. Although he had yet to reunite with Changyang Ba, Chanyang Prefecture was also his home and his heart. At the same time, he had an extremely good impression of his grandfather whom he had met for the first time. "All right, I've also prepared a small gift for the Patriarch and 4th Madam," Shangwan Aojin continued. Shangwan Aojin continued. 2 beautiful, embroidered boxes appeared in his hands. The boxes were completely forged for violet gold. They shone with violet light, making them seem noble and grand. Just the 2 boxes alone were worth quite a lot. When Shangwan Aojin mentioned the Patriarch, he also mentioned the 4th Madam. Everyone understood that he was referring to the previous Patriarch and not the new Patriarch, Changyang Ba, because only Changyang Ba had a 4th Madam. Changyang Ba happily accepted the 2 boxes from Shangwan Aojin. For some reason, he felt even happier when he received the gift from Shangwan Aojin than when he received 100,000-year-old heavenly resources from other experts. Even though he had no idea what was in the boxes, this was the first time he had felt this way during a ceremony like this. The items in the boxes no longer seemed as important. Changyang Ba did not plan on opening the boxes either. He passed them to his followers. "The gifts from our young island master are extraordinary. Don't you plan on taking a look, Patriarch?" At this moment, Xiao Qian spoke up from beside Shangwan Aojin. Xiao Qian was one of the 3 island masters of 3 Saint Island, and her master was a sovereign. Even she had said that the gifts were extraordinary, which immediately piqued the curiosity of many of the guests. Some of the people who were on good terms with Changyang Ba even urged him to open the boxes eagerly so that everyone could take a look. "Whatever. Since everyone is so interested, let's take a look at what the young island master's gifts are," Changyang Ba said straightforwardly. He smiled amiably as he directly picked up one of the boxes from his followers and slowly opened it. During this process, all the guests in the surroundings held their breaths and stared at the box. Very soon, the box was opened, and a faint fragrance immediately wafted out. Taking a whiff, Everyone's minds immediately shuddered. In that moment, they felt like their minds had become extremely light, and their souls seemed to have grown slightly. The mysteries of the world that had remained at their current level of cultivation for a long time seemed to become clearer in that moment, and they seemed to be on the verge of breaking through. This phenomenon immediately shocked everyone. Everyone stared at the brocade box without blinking. Just the fragrance it emitted had such an inconceivable effect. This made everyone very curious about what kind of treasure was inside the brocade box. Inside the brocade box, there was a perfume pouch. The smell of sharing was coming from this perfume pouch. The young island master's gift is just too valuable. Chanyang Ba sighed in amazement. Just a whiff of the fragrance was enough for everyone to understand the value of the pouch. It was definitely more valuable than any gift from any organization. Our young island master personally created this pouch. He used the powder of many heavenly resources. There are 1,200,000-year-old heavenly resources among them. Xiaoyu said, "What? He used 1,200,000-year-old heavenly resources to create a pouch?" The island master of 3 Sane Island Shore is wealthy. Even among peak organizations, 100,000-year-old heavenly resources are rare treasures. Yet the young island master has taken out 12 of them to create a pouch. How are those peak organizations supposed to accept this? The surrounding guests were all stunned by Xiaoyu's words. The young island master of 3 Sane Island could no longer be described as wealthy. Xiaoyu giggled when she heard the exclamations in the surroundings. She continued, "And in this pouch, the 100,000-year-old heavenly resources are only medium quality. I won't introduce the high-quality heavenly resources because treasures at that level have already exceeded our understanding. Even we don't know their names." What? Even the 100,000-year-old heavenly resources are only medium quality? Heaven's eye, is this really a pouch? Including Chanyang Ba. Everyone became dumbfounded. Disbelief filled their faces. Shangwan Aojian smiled when he saw everyone's reactions. He nonchalantly said, "I spent 3 years to create this pouch. Not only can it calm the mind and eliminate inner demons if you carry it with you, but it can also help with cultivation and comprehension of the mysteries of the world. Even Radiant Saint Masters are no exception. This is a small gift I've specially prepared for the 4th Madam." Chanyang Ba stared at the pouch in a daze. The young island master had actually given something so precious to Bai Yun Tian. He had no idea what to say because the gift was just too valuable. You make it sound so nice. Who knows if you're telling the truth?" Chanyang Su murmured in a voice that only he could hear. He was extremely jealous of the young island master. He was the mighty young master of Chanyang Prefecture. Although he had ingested a few 10,000-year-old heavenly resources, he had never even touched or seen a 100,000-year-old heavenly resource before. However, the young island master had actually used 12 of them to create a pouch. "Patriarch, the second box was specially prepared for you by our young island master," Xiaoyu said again, reminding Chanyang Ba to open the second box. Chanyang Ba sucked in a deep breath and slowly closed the box. At this moment, he discovered that his hands had actually begun to tremble slightly. 12 10,000-year-old heavenly resources had been ground into powder to create a pouch, and it was only medium quality among the materials used to create the pouch. Such a luxurious item was probably the only one in the world. Uncle Chang arrived beside Chanyang Ba. Chanyang Ba passed the gift box in his hand to Uncle Chang for safekeeping before carefully opening the second gift box in the hands of an attendant. Chapter 1583. The young island master sure is extravagant. Just the gift he's given to the 4th Madam is made from over a dozen 100,000-year-old heavenly resources, as well as a few items that are even more valuable. Their value is unimaginable. I really wonder what the young island master's gift to the patriarch will be. I believe that the value of the present that the young island lord is giving to the manor lord is definitely above the value of the first present. Just look at the expressions of the young island lord, the 2nd island lord, and the 3rd island lord. I really don't know what the second present will be. Many of the esteemed guests gathered in Chanyang Prefecture began to whisper among themselves. They began to discuss excitedly. It could be said that just the value of the first gift from Shangguan Aojian had far exceeded what all the peak organizations present could accept. Naturally, everyone paid close attention to the second gift. Finally, Chanyang Ba opened the second box under everyone's anticipation. Immediately, a fist-sized, violet peach appeared before everyone's eyes. It was a violet cloud peach. The second box did not only contain the violet cloud peach. Beside it was a palm-sized leaf. Aside from that, there were 3 faintly earthen yellow crystals that radiated with pure and surging energy from time to time. It's a violet cloud peach and a comprehension tea leaf. No, this violet cloud peach is clearly different from the one the young Island Master took out earlier. Not only is this one slightly larger, but its color is much deeper as well. It's clearly better than the one before. The young Island Master actually has 2 violet cloud peaches on him. Heavens, that's enough to make everyone jealous. Violet cloud peaches are so precious that even I only ate a small piece in the past. Obtaining a complete violet cloud peach is a luxury, yet the young Island Master has actually taken out 2 today. The heavenly enchantress sure spoils the young Island Master. Aside from Sovereign Jianshan, no one else in the world possesses a violet cloud peach. I think the young Island Master's violet cloud peach came from Sovereign Jianshan. At that moment, over half of the sainthood experts gathered their look at Shangguan Aojian with extremely well-hidden jealousy. The violet cloud peach was a treasure that even saint emperors desired. Even Origin Realm experts could not resist the temptation of the violet cloud peach, let alone saint emperors. This was because a single peach was equivalent to several hundred or even several thousand years of cultivation. It was the only treasure that could drastically increase a person's strength in the shortest amount of time possible. Many of the people present did not even have the right to use one, yet Shangguan Aojian had taken out 2. This immediately caused everyone's eyes to turn red with envy. Chanyang Su, in particular, immediately became extremely jealous when he saw Shangguan Aojian take out 2 violet cloud peaches and comprehension tea leaves. At the same time, he became more and more dissatisfied with his uncle. Uncle Shure is biased. The young Island Master of 3 Saint Island is not related to him at all, yet he actually gave him so many violet cloud peaches and comprehension tea leaves. What about me? I didn't get a single thing, said Jianshan. Chanyang Su glared at Shangguan Aojian as if he was about to spit fire. Only now did he suddenly feel like he really was a clown before the young Island Master of 3 Saint Island. In the past few years, he had always been proud of his ability to use 10,000-year-old heavenly resources as he wished, as well as the various battle skills of his clan. His strength and talent made him a peerless genius as well, reaching Great Saint Master at the age of 20. With the entire world in perspective, the number of people who could achieve this at his age could be counted on one hand. There might not even be someone like him. Only when the young Island Master appeared did he suddenly realize that the things he had been so proud of were nothing before the young Island Master. It's Uncle. It's all Uncle's fault. Chanyang Su placed all the blame on Jianshan. He did not believe that he was any worse than Shangguan Aojian because he was the young master of Chanyang Prefecture. His status was great, and he had grown accustomed to his superiority over others. He would never allow himself to be defeated. I think everyone is familiar with the violet cloud peaches and comprehension tea leaves. As for the 3 crystals, I'm sure many of you haven't seen them before. Any one of the 3 crystals is equivalent to a Class 9 monster core, and they're even better than Class 9 monster cores. This is a small gift from me to the Patriarch. If the Patriarch uses the 3 crystals to cultivate, his strength will increase drastically in a short amount of time. After a few decades, you'll definitely become a holy emperor if you consume the violet cloud peaches, Shangguan Aojian said loudly. Good, good, good. I'll accept the young Island Master's great gift. Ha! This is the most valuable gift I've ever received. Chanyang Ba laughed aloud. He did not act pretentious, closing the box and passing it to Changbo. At the same time, Chanyang Su's eyes lit up. He stared at the box with the violet cloud peaches and made up his mind. He would go ask his grandfather for the violet cloud peaches after the ceremony. He refused to believe that he would lose to the young island master after consuming the violet cloud peaches. Shangguan Aojian sensed Chanyang Su's gaze and snickered inside. He walked over and said, "Brother, you have to accept your loss. You still owe me a brother." Chanyang Su's face sank. He coldly stared at Shangguan Aojian and coldly said, "You only defeated me because you consumed the violet cloud peaches. The battle before was not fair at all. I refuse to accept this. I will challenge you again in half a year." "All right, then I'll wait for your challenge in half a year." Shangguan Aojian did not take it to heart at all. He turned around and left with that, but after taking a few steps, he seemed to think of something. He looked back at Chanyang Su and snickered. "Brother, you're probably waiting for your uncle to return and give you the violet cloud peaches, right? I'd advise you to give up on that. If you don't change your attitude, your uncle will never nurture you because he doesn't like wastrels." Chanyang Ba glanced at Shangguan Aojian deeply when he heard what Shangguan Aojian had said. He obviously understood that Shangguan Aojian's words were directed at Chanyang Su on the surface, but he was secretly directed at himself. However, Chanyang Ba did not say anything. After witnessing the young island master's performance today, he clearly understood that his only grandson, Chanyang Su, did indeed have a lot of areas that needed to be corrected. Shangguan Aojian stayed in Chanyang Prefecture for a few days. Because he was the young island master of 3 Saint Island and the second and third island masters were by his side, he possessed a very great status in Chanyang Prefecture. Even a few seniors from his zoo branch had personally come to see the young island master. Shangguan Aojian was very courteous. He even treated the servants of Chanyang Prefecture very politely. When he met a few senior figures, he would greet them without putting on any airs at all, which made everyone in Chanyang Prefecture like him very much. Bai Yuntian, in particular, treated Shangguan Aojian like her own son. She was extremely fond of him. Shangguan Aojian's identity as Jinshan's son had not been exposed, so everyone in Chanyang Prefecture was still in the dark. He only referred to himself as the young island master of 3 Saint Island. Shangguan Aojian had learned a lot about his father's past from Bai Yuntian during his stay in the Chanyang clan. Of course, no one else knew about these matters. A few days later, Shangguan Aojian bid farewell to Chanyang Ba and Bai Yuntian. He left Chanyang Prefecture with his 2 sisters in an extremely low-key manner. "Xiao Bao, where are you going next?" Xiao Qian asked Shangguan Aojian as they walked along a bustling street in Lore City. Chapter 1584. In the easternmost part of the wasteland continent, 100,000 kilometers from the elven forest where the elves resided, there was an extremely huge and majestic tomb. The tomb was snow white. It was completely constructed from scorching sun essence gold. Scorching sun essence gold was a mineral unique to the wasteland continent. It was formed from ordinary rocks that had absorbed the power of the sun over countless years in a dry environment. It was extremely valuable on the wasteland continent, even more valuable than tungsten alloy on the Tianyuan continent. Scorching sun essence gold was extremely tough. It was basically impossible to damage it without the strength of a saint ruler. On the wasteland continent, the scorching sun essence gold was a resource that was only controlled by large clans and organizations, because not only could it be used to forge weapons of very high quality, but it also contained some force of the sun. If one grasped a special secret technique, they could refine the force of the sun within the scorching sun essence gold for cultivation. However, even in the hands of the peak organizations on the wasteland continent, they did not possess a lot of scorching sun essence gold. However, the colossal tomb before them was actually completely made of scorching sun essence gold. It seemed to be a perfect whole, and there were no cracks or marks left behind when it was constructed. Without the strength of a saint ruler, it was impossible to destroy the essence metal of the sun. However, the tomb constructed from the essence metal of the sun was actually a single piece. Ignoring the value of the tomb itself, just the construction of the tomb was no easy matter. Especially from the traces, it was obvious that this mausoleum had existed for a very long time. Even though the mausoleum was clean and spotless, the traces left behind by the passage of countless years could not be covered up. The extremely luxurious tomb had already existed for a very long time. Not only was there no one who dared to covet it, but it was even worshipped by the various races of the wasteland continent every day. There were even many experts like the Holy Emperor among them, causing the tomb to become a supreme sacred ground where no one dared to desecrate it. This was because this was the tomb of the war god of the 100 races, Aruejin. Even though Aruejin had died in battle many years ago, he still lived on in the hearts of all the people of the 100 races. At the same time, Aruejin's remains had been sealed here by the winged tiger. Below the tomb was where the powerful seal was. Before Ergin's mausoleum, many people would come to kneel, pray, and clean the mausoleum every day. Today was naturally no exception. Over 10,000 people had already knelt before the mausoleum. However, at this moment, the ground began to gently tremble. It was as if the entire continent of the 100 races was shaking. Even the mausoleum, made from the essence of the sun, shook. At the same time, a tremendous presence radiated from the depths of the mausoleum. The strength of the aura caused the world to tremble. In an instant, the entire wasteland continent was enveloped by the incomparably huge aura. Wind and clouds surged in the sky above the wasteland continent. Under the pressure of the aura, the thick clouds that had accumulated above the wasteland continent rapidly dispersed, disappearing without a trace. Afterwards, the tremendous presence actually expanded beyond the wasteland continent. In a short amount of time, it enveloped the Tian Yuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Sea Realm, the Arctic Tundra, and finally the entire world. It shocked everyone. The Origin Realm experts in the Supreme Divine Hall of Mercenary City all looked in the direction of the 100 races as joy filled their faces. "It's Taita. He's broken through," said Feng Xiaodian as he smiled faintly. "Fantastic. Our Tian Yuan continent has become a little stronger now," said Jinshen. Taita had been gone for 3 years. Now that he had finally emerged from seclusion, the Origin Realm experts who watched over the Divine Hall became much more at ease. Space gates appeared one after another outside Ruijin's tomb on the wasteland continent. Many holy emperors and holy emperors hurried over as soon as possible. Not only were there people from the 100 races, but there were even quite a few holy emperors and holy emperors from magical beasts and humans. In the past, outsiders who came to the sacred land of the 100 races would definitely be rejected by all the experts of the 100 races. But now, the 4 races were united in battle. They had completely cast aside the concept of territory. As a result, the experts of the 100 races welcomed the arrival of humans and magical beasts. It's the war god. The war god has emerged. Many experts of the 100 races who had hurried over all cried out outside the tomb. Their faces were filled with joy. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell with a single glance that the war god's strength had definitely skyrocketed. Every one of the 100 races viewed the war god as their spiritual leader, so they were obviously overjoyed by the increase in the war god's strength. The war god has vanished for 3 years. He's finally reappeared. In the past 3 years, the war god of the 100 clans must have received Ergin's legacy in the tomb. I wonder what realm the war god of the 100 clan strength will reach after coming out of seclusion this time. The human sovereign has already vanished for 3 years. There's been no news of him at all. If the human sovereign's strength hasn't increased during those 3 years, he probably won't be the war god's opponent anymore. The war god and the winged tiger have a feud. Now that the war god's strength has increased, while the winged tiger only reached the origin realm 3 years ago, because he obtained the beast god's legacy. He has been guarding the supreme divine hall for the past 3 years, so his strength has not increased at all. In this era, the winged tiger probably won't be the war god's opponent anymore. The light in the eyes of many people among the humans and magical beasts flickered. They thought of many things in a single moment. The war god's strength had increased, which would increase the status of the 100 races without a doubt. At this moment, the terrifying aura that made the heavens and earth tremble suddenly disappeared. A dazzling golden light appeared in front of the mausoleum out of thin air. It looked like a small golden sun, blooming with boundless light. Through the golden light, one could vaguely see a blurry figure inside. It was Tai. We welcome the war god's emergence from seclusion. All the people of the 100 races knelt down together. Their voices were filled with excitement and joy. Although the humans and magical beasts did not kneel, they still bowed towards Tai politely. There's no need to be so courteous. I need to go to the Divine Hall and Mercenary City immediately. So I'll be going first, Tai said with a deep voice. Tai said to everyone in a low, muffled voice. As soon as he finished speaking, he used his sky battling profound and used his body to break through space. He went straight to the Supreme Divine Palace. In the Supreme Divine Hall, the golden light around Tai had already vanished. Tai stood in the Supreme Divine Hall with a beast hide in his hand. His skin was as dazzling as gold, and there was even a faint glow of calculation on the surface of his skin. Tianjin, the White Tiger, Xiaoling, Xiaojin, Poseidon, Yanglai, and so on all stared at Tai and carefully studied him. However, without any exception, none of them could sense just what level of strength Tai had reached. Tai, are you at receival or returnance right now? Poseidon asked. Chapter 1585. Tai handed over the divine beast skin in his hand. His gaze slowly swept over everyone, and from time to time, he would look at the divine beast skin in his hand. The divine beast skin was clearly much larger than the divine beast skin in his hand. His expression was a little strange, and there was also some confusion and bewilderment. It was as if the secret hidden within the beast fur had left Tai extremely surprised. There were many things that he did not understand. The Origin Realm experts present all looked at the beast fur. Even though they could tell that the secret hidden within the beast fur was rather extraordinary from Tai's expression, none of them reached out to take it first. What's the secret hidden inside? Let me have a look. In the end, it was Xiaoling who moved first. As a child, she obviously would not follow the rules. Her bright eyes were filled with interest and curiosity as she grabbed the beast fur from Tai's hand. She unfurled the beast fur with her small hands, but she discovered that there was nothing on the snow-white beast fur. There was only a warm and gentle feeling that reached her heart through her small hands. This immediately made Xiaoling pause. She flipped through the beast for several times as doubt gradually appeared on her face. However, as soon as this doubt appeared, Xiaoling seemed to realize something. A gleam of light flashed through her eyes, and she said, I understand. You need the senses of the soul to see the secret hidden inside. Hee. Xiaoling giggled before extending the senses of her soul into the beast fur with curiosity. Everyone's gazes gathered on Xiaoling at that moment. The secret hidden within the beast fur had actually made Tai reveal such an expression. This had already raised everyone's curiosity, but no one checked it first. However, in just a few seconds after Xiaoling's soul entered the beast fur, her face suddenly changed. Her small body could not help but tremble, and tears began to gather in her eyes. They rolled down in front of her eyes as crystalline tears. She became very sad. Sob, sob, sob. Master, master, where are you? Don't abandon Xiaoling. Xiaoling misses you so much. Master, where are you? To everyone's surprise, Xiaoling suddenly began to cry after her senses entered the beast fur. She was extremely sad, and tears began to flow from her eyes like a fountain. They rolled down Xiaoling's cute and childish face, producing clear splashes as they fell to the ground. Xiaoling's tears did not stop as she sobbed. At that moment, she went from a happy little girl to an orphan who had been abandoned by her parents. She became very sad, and filled with helplessness. Sky Sword, Sea Goddess, Houston, Yanglai, Feng Xiaotian, Guihai Yidao, Tai, and the others all looked at each other. All of them were left speechless. However, Xiaoling had revealed her true feelings, allowing everyone to sense her current feelings. For a moment, everyone felt pity for her. At the same time, everyone became even more curious about the secrets hidden within the beast fur. Sister Xiaoling, don't cry. You still have me. I'm your little brother, Xiaojin. Xiaojin, who was less than a meter tall, held Xiao Ling's hand as he spoke. Although it had been 3 years, Xiao Jin had not changed at all. He still seemed the same as before. He was still a child of 3 or 4, innocent and cute. As Xiao Jin said that, he snatched the beast fur from Xiao Ling's hand. He did not care about the secrets hidden within the beast fur, so he casually shoved it into Houston's arms. In Xiao Jin's opinion, Xiao Ling had suddenly become sad after seeing the beast fur, so he naturally would not let the beast fur remain in Xiao Ling's hands. When the little white tiger saw Xiao Ling's sorrowful appearance, it seemed to think of its father, whom it had never seen before. There was an indescribable sorrow on its face as it silently stood there without saying a word. In the past 3 years, the white tiger had always maintained this expression. He remained silent and rarely spoke. He seemed to be filled with coldness. Similarly, his face did not change in the slightest. He maintained the appearance of an 8 or 9-year-old, and his hair was snow white. However, there was not the slightest trace of childishness on the little white tiger's face. There was an additional resoluteness and coldness that did not match his age. He looked like a warrior who had experienced war and was extremely valiant. As the beast fur landed in Houston's hands, everyone immediately looked at Houston. Noticing everyone's gazes, Houston pondered for a while before tossing the 2 beast furs into the air. They were trapped there by an invisible force, preventing them from falling to the ground. Since everyone is so curious about the secrets hidden in there, why don't we all take a look together? Houston said to everyone. Aside from Tai Ta, Xiao Jin, and Xiao Ling, everyone else sent the senses of their souls into the beast fur. Even Tian Jian was no exception. He released the senses of his soul as well, prying into the mysteries hidden within. There was another universe inside the divine beast skin. It was as if there was a whole world hidden inside. When everyone's divine sense entered the divine beast skin, what appeared in front of them was a vast starry sky. Stars were densely distributed in this starry sky. They were glittering with bright starlight. The Origin Realm experts were immediately stunned by this sight. None of them had thought that such a small piece of fur would hide a world like this. What shocked them even more was that they could sense extremely complete laws in the region of outer space. These laws were something that the current world did not possess. At the same time, they could clearly sense that although the laws of the world were extremely complete, they seemed to be lacking something compared to the laws of the outside world. As a result, the extremely realistic cosmos seemed rather incomplete. Slaughter, the ruler of all life, standing above all life, stepping on the fate of all life. My way is the way of slaughter. At this moment, an obscure voice rang out from nowhere. It reverberated through everyone's minds like a great bell. As the voice rang out, the vast cosmos seemed to shake. Countless stars flickered, brightening and dimming as if they had come alive. With that, a white-robed man silently appeared before everyone. His white robes and long hair danced in the wind. He had his back to everyone, so no one could see his face clearly. His body was filled with an inexplicable aura of the Great Path. It was as if he had merged with the world and the Great Path. It was as if his entire being was this world. In other words, this world was formed by this person. Chapter 1586. It doesn't matter who you are. You're fated to be able to come here. This space is created by my abilities. I use a strand of the origin of slaughter to create laws. Those who comprehend laws will become my disciples in name from the day you comprehend them. At this moment, the man in white moved. He took a step forward, and the stars around him immediately changed. The river of stars rolled in reverse. He crossed an unknown distance with this step. It was as if he had arrived at the other end of the universe. He appeared in front of a huge star. He slowly raised his hand and used a finger to draw a line towards the star. With that, the entire universe shook violently. A supreme power that seemed to originate from the world rapidly gathered. The power was filled with ruthlessness and destruction. It was as if everything in the world would wither away before the power. As the white-robed man slashed down with his finger, the supreme power also slashed towards the star in front of him. Without a sound, the star in front of him was cut into 2 halves. Immediately afterwards, the white-clothed man grabbed at the star that had shattered into two. The countless plants on the star seemed to have lost all their vitality in an instant, turning into a pile of ash. Then, even the star turned into dust under the white-clothed man's claw, turning into dust that drifted through the universe. Even though it was only an illusion, all the Origin Realm experts present were extremely shocked when they personally witnessed this. The white-robed man's strength had completely exceeded their imaginations. The planet before them was even larger than the planet they resided on, yet the white-robed man had cleaved it in half with a single stroke. After grabbing at it, the entire planet had been reduced to dust. Just how powerful was he to achieve something like that? At that moment, their shock had reached its limit. Even Yang Lai, Guihai Yi Dao, and Feng Xiaodian were the same. They were all extremely shocked. Following that, the man in white continued to attack. Every time he attacked, he had the power to destroy the heavens and the earth. Every time he attacked, he used the power of the entire universe, accompanied by the power of the rules. His body was in harmony with the Great Way, emitting an indescribable aura of the Way. At the same time, the man in white let out sounds of the Way, explaining the Great Way to everyone with every attack he made. He was passing on the laws of the world. He was passing on the 3,000 ways and the laws of the world. The white-robed man used a unique method to manifest the way of slaughter, one of the 3,000 ways, before everyone in the clearest manner possible. Laws were the means of godhood experts. At the same time, they were the key to godhood. Under normal circumstances, only late reciprocity experts could come in contact with them. Once they grasped them, they would immediately reach godhood. If someone below late reciprocity grasped the laws beforehand, they would not be able to reach godhood immediately, but their strength would increase drastically. Unless it was someone who had also grasped the laws of the world, no one would be their opponent at the same level of strength. Poseidon, Yang Lai, and the other Origin Realm experts naturally knew that the white-robed man was passing on the laws of the world. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so they naturally would not miss it. All of them quietly comprehended the truths of the ways, wanting to comprehend the way of slaughter. Probably only the white tiger did not become intoxicated. He stared at the white-robed man's back with his large eyes as the light in his eyes flickered. This was because the method the white-robed man was passing on was exactly the same as the one he had received in the Beast God Hall. The only difference was that the legacy he had received in the Beast God Hall contained a strand of slaughter origin energy. He had absorbed the strand of slaughter origin energy after comprehending the two realms of life and death, turning it into his own power. However, the white-robed man was allowing everyone to comprehend the way of slaughter by themselves through the evolution of the way of slaughter. If they could comprehend it, they would succeed, but if they could not, they would fail. Although they were passing on the same way, the treatment was completely different. No, this isn't the complete way of slaughter. The way of slaughter contains the two realms of life and death, but he's only imparting the realm of death. Without the realm of life, it won't become the complete way of slaughter, even if they comprehend it. A gleam of light flashed through the white tiger's eyes. He basically could not raise any doubts about the white-robed man's identity because they were in the beast fur, and the ancient winged tiger had also comprehended the way of slaughter. Without a doubt, the white-robed man was the winged tiger from the ancient times. Time passed silently. After who knew how long, the white-robed man's evolution finally stopped. Poseidon and the other Origin Realm experts roused as well. They were all dejected, clearly having failed to benefit. Comprehending laws was not easy. Even with the white-robed man's evolution, it was not something that could be comprehended in a single day, because they were still extremely far away from late reciprocity. At this moment, the white-robed man slowly turned around, revealing a valiant and extraordinary face. Only now could everyone see the white-robed man's true appearance. However, when they saw the white-clothed man's true appearance, everyone's gaze froze. Immediately, their eyes widened to the size of copper bells, and their faces were filled with disbelief. Emo Tanyan, Sir City Lord, Poseidon and Tianjin could not help but cry out as their hearts churned. This was because the white-robed man who had imparted the way of slaughter to them was actually identical to the past greatest human expert, Tianjin. They were basically the same person. The white tiger was dumbfounded as well. He stared at the white-robed man's face as disbelief flooded his face. The white-robed man did not seem to hear their cries. Although he faced everyone, his eyes were fixed on the vast outer space. He said once again, "The way of slaughter contains the two realms of life and death. Only by comprehending the two realms of life and death can the way of slaughter reach perfection. I've left behind the realm of death here. If anyone comprehends the way of slaughter, they can inherit my realm of life when we gather in the saints' world in the future." With that, the white-robed man gradually vanished as well. The senses of everyone's souls retreated from the vast outer space under the pressure of an invisible power. Although they seemed to have spent a very long time in the outer space hidden in the beast fur, only a few seconds had passed in the outside world. Xiaoling's sorrowful sobs still rang out, but no one was in the mood to pay attention to Xiaoling at this moment. Their expressions were extremely rich as they continued to think about the white-robed man's face when he turned around in the end. The person who imparted the way of slaughter is actually Tianjin, but the fur clearly came from the winged tiger. According to the records, the winged tiger left behind this beast fur as the key to unlocking a Ruijin seal. The beast fur was split into 18 pieces because of the winged tiger. Afterwards, the 18 beast furs were split between the 100 races, the humans, and the magical beasts. How could Tianjin leave behind his legacy on the winged tiger's fur? Moreover, the legacy can only be unlocked after the 18 beast furs have fused together. Houston frowned as he was filled with doubt. They would rather believe that the white-robed man was the winged tiger than accept that he was Tianjin. Chapter 1587. Back then, the winged tiger divided the pelt into 18 pieces. Did he do that because he had already sensed Tianjin's actions and knew that Tianjin wanted to leave behind his legacy with the pelt? At the same time, Tianjin's strength had already surpassed the winged tiger's. So the winged tiger did not have the ability to remove the legacy that Tianjin had left in the pelt, which was why he divided the pelt into 18 pieces. Was he trying to stop Tianjin from using his pelt? Guihai Dao guessed. Yang Lai thought about it for a while before gently shaking his head. If the winged tiger wanted to stop Tianjin from using his pelt to pass on his legacy, he could have taken one of the pelts away from this world or hidden it in the depths of outer space instead of leaving them all here. Idao, that doesn't make sense. Whether it's Tianjin or the winged tiger, they both gave me an unfathomable feeling. However, when Tianjin discovered the tunnel to the world of Forsaken Saints, he was bold enough to enter the world of Forsaken Saints alone and killed all the Origin Realm experts there. He even cast down a powerful seal that lasted for 1,000,000 years. Even reciprocity experts could not break through the seal. If it were not for the fact that the Spirit King's battle prowess had reached godhood, Tianjin's seal probably would not have been broken through even now. All of this just shows how powerful Tianjin is. He might be even more powerful than the winged tiger at the same time. Obviously, we can't eliminate the possibility that the secret of the beast pelt was left behind without the winged tiger's knowledge, said the goddess. The person who spoke was the sea goddess. As someone from the same era as Tianjin and the winged tiger god, she knew many things that had happened in the past. However, none of these things were known to the people present, because aside from Xiaoling, no one else was from that era. Even Xiaoling was not very clear about many things that happened in ancient times due to the period when she gained sentience. There were some things that had already happened before she gained sentience. Everyone was filled with confusion. Only the white tiger stood there silently. However, he was nowhere near as calm as he seemed on the surface. Although he was young, he was still young. However, his experiences with Jianshin over the years had allowed his mind to completely mature. Through the secret he had discovered in the beast hide earlier, he had already formed an inconceivable association. This association shocked him, shocked him, and even more so, made him feel disbelief. He did not care why Mo Tianyun's inheritance would appear in the Tiger Emperor of Siyu's fur. Right now, all he could think about was the way of slaughter that Mo Tianyun grasped. It was because this way of slaughter was also controlled by the Tiger Emperor of Siyu, Senior Poseidon, who appeared first in the ancient times, the beast god, or Mo Tianyun. Do you still know about their experiences growing up? The white tiger suddenly asked. He looked at Poseidon in interest. Poseidon remained silent for a while, as if he had sunk into a distant memory. That era was just far too long ago. It had already been 1,000,000 years. In the ancient times, the magical beasts and humans originally occupied the Tianyuan continent. Afterwards, the winged tiger appeared and led all the magical beasts to attack the 100 races, taking over the current beast god continent. At that time, Mo Tianyun did not exist on the Tianyuan continent. Aside from me, the war god of the 100 races, Ruijin, and the winged tiger were the only origin realm experts. Afterwards, there was a war between the magical beasts and the 100 races. The 100 races were unable to conquer the Tianyuan continent, so they began to attack the Tianyuan continent in an attempt to take over the Tianyuan continent. At that time, the strongest human was only the Holy Emperor. There were no existences that surpassed the Holy Emperor. Even the protector clans were beaten back time and time again by the 100 races, suffering heavy casualties. In the end, when the 100 races were about to take over the Tianyuan continent, Mo Tianyun appeared. He possessed strength that surpassed the Holy Emperor as soon as he appeared, repelling Ruijin and the 100 races. He drove them out of the Tianyuan continent and protected the humans. Mo Tianyun appeared out of nowhere. Before he appeared, there had never been any legends about him on the Tianyuan continent. As time went on, many people believed that Mo Tianyun was some hermit expert who had never appeared in the outside world before. A strange light flickered through Poseidon's eyes. He seemed to have thought of something wondrous as well. He continued, "As for the winged tiger, although he appeared before Mo Tianyun, there have never been any legends about him on the Tianyuan continent. He seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, just like Mo Tianyun. He possessed strength that surpassed the Holy Emperor as soon as he appeared." A gleam of light flickered through the eyes of Yang Lai, Feng Xiaotian, Guihai Yidao, Tian Jian, and Houston when they heard that. At that moment, they also thought of something unbelievable. I'm guessing that whether it's Mo Tianyun or the winged tiger, they don't belong to this world. They came down from above, just like you, and they're extremely close to each other. They basically appear at the same time and disappeared at the same time. I even suspect that Mo Tianyun and the winged tiger are actually the same person through various clues and inferences. Poseidon said sternly. When everyone heard her last sentence, it was no different from a thunderclap. They all became rather stunned. Even though they had already made some guesses, they were still very shocked when Poseidon spoke of a conclusion that had overturned everything they had known for 1,000,000 years. Sob, how can my master be that tiger? My master is a human. Xiao Ling wiped away her tears as she emphasized again and again. Her face was filled with resentment. However, no one was in the mood to pay attention to her. They all fell silent. After a long while, Tian Jian sighed gloomily on the white jade seat. He said, "I've also flipped through ancient records in the past. Although I don't know the exact details of what happened back then, I do have a rough understanding. It said that the City Lord and the Winged Tiger had never met during that period of time, and no one witnessed the agreement between the Tianyuan continent and the Beast God continent. It was only the City Lord and the Winged Tiger who told their clansmen. This matter affected everyone greatly. Mo Tianyun and the Winged Tiger could actually be the same person. If they announced this secret, probably no one in the world would believe them. However, no one thought of that. The conclusion that Mo Tianyun and the Winged Tiger could be the same person was only a guess based on a few clues. As long as this matter was not proven, it would not become reality. Let's comprehend Mo Tianyun's way of slaughter together. If we can comprehend it, we'll be able to open a door ahead of time. Houston looked at the beast fur floating in the air as he spoke with mixed feelings. Sob, sob, this is my master's way. My master said in the past that I'm an innate spirit and possess my own grand Tao of origin. It's best if I don't comprehend other ways before my grand Tao of origin is complete, or it'll suppress my grand Tao of origin. Brother Xiao Jin won't be able to comprehend master's way either, Xiaoling sobbed. Her face was filled with sadness. She had seen her master in the past in the beast fur, and it had evoked the deep longing she had for her master that she had buried deep within her heart. Hearing this, the sea god's expression darkened. He sighed and said with some regret, I can't comprehend Mo Tianyun's way of killing because I'm the same as Xiao Jin and Xiaoling. I'm an innate spirit body that was born in the boundless ocean. When I was first formed, lightning fell from the sky. I didn't make it and almost died. However, I didn't die in the end and luckily survived. To this day, I can only be considered a half-spirit body and not a complete innate spirit body. Chapter 1588. The blood-red sun hung high in the sky in the world of forsaken saints. It shone with a demonic red light that enveloped the entire region. It was as red as blood. The entire world was scarlet red. It seemed like the world was filled with an evil intent. Several receival protectors and an elder entered the spatial tunnel at the same time on the world mountains in the center of the foreign world. They headed to the other end of the tunnel to attack the supreme divine hall above so that they could increase the consumption of the divine hall's energy. Several million kilometers to the east of the world, there was a majestic divine hall. It stood there silently like a primordial beast crouching on the ground. It gave off a pressuring pressure, filled with holiness and dignity, as well as a majestic presence that could trample on the world, not allowing any encroachment. The Divine Hall was the sacred spirit hall, the place with the greatest authority in the world of forsaken saints. If the entire world of forsaken saints was a colossal empire, the sacred spirit hall would be the imperial city, the imperial palace. The Sacred Spirit Hall had a total of 3 floors. The first floor was where the ceremonies took place. The second floor was where the protectors and elders cultivated. It was divided into an inner and outer floor. The third floor was the most special. Only the Spirit King could enter it. Even Ouyang Yangwan had never set foot on the third floor because the entrance to the third floor was protected by an ancient restriction. Those below reciprocity could not enter. According to the rules of the world of forsaken saints, anyone who had reached reciprocity would become a Spirit King. At this moment, in the depths of the third floor of the Sacred Spirit Hall, there was a colossal statue that was 300 meters tall. The left and right eyes of the statue had been shattered, and there was a clear sword slash at the corner of each eye. Through the empty eyes of the statue, one could see a door that shone with 7-colored light hidden in the head of the statue. Behind the door was a fairyland-like world of mountains and rivers that was filled with origin energy. This was a miniature world. It was not very large, only a few hundred square kilometers in size. It was even smaller than some cities. However, a figure sat in the center of the world of mountains and rivers. Strands of powerful origin energy radiated from him. He was extremely powerful, and strands of extremely sharp sword chi were mixed in with the origin energy from time to time. As a result, the origin energy that was mixed in with the sword chi was even more powerful than the origin energy that was mixed in with the sword chi. The figure was the Spirit King. He had been in seclusion for the past 3 years. He did not break through after 3 years of seclusion. He remained at mid-reciprocity, but he was extremely close to late reciprocity. Jian Shun, the first time I saw you, your battle prowess was equivalent to receival, but the second time, you possessed the strength to defeat Xiongzhong. The third time will be when we truly meet again. I hope that you'll be able to surprise me again the next time we meet. The Spirit King was filled with eagerness as he cultivated. He was eager to fight Jianshin again because Jianshin was the only other person aside from him who had comprehended the way of the sword. The Spirit King did not attack the Supreme Divine Hall because he knew that it would take a long time for him to break through the tunnel. He would rather use this time to cultivate and increase his strength so that he could break through the divine hall in a single stroke than waste his origin energy on a battle of attrition with the cultivators of the other world. As the Spirit King entered seclusion, Xiongzhong and Ouyang Yangwen were also in seclusion on the second floor of the Sacred Spirit Hall. Ouyang Yangwen, in particular, had originally remained at late returnance for several thousand years. After 3 years of seclusion, his strength had reached the peak of late returnance. He was only a step away from reciprocity. However, returnance and quintessence were breakthroughs of the same level. Only after accumulating and erupting could one successfully make the breakthrough. As a result, Ouyang Yangwen had been stuck at this threshold for the past 3 years, unable to make it to quintessence. Another 6 years later, a turbulent ripple of energy suddenly appeared where Ouyang Yangwen cultivated on the second floor of the Sacred Spirit Hall. With a tremendous presence, it enveloped the entire second floor of the Sacred Spirit Hall, causing a storm of energy to appear. However, the storm only wreaked havoc on the second floor. It did not affect the first or third floor at all. No one outside the Sacred Spirit Hall could sense it at all. The rest of the guardians and elders, who were still in seclusion on the second level of the Sacred Spirit Hall, woke up one after another. Under the shroud of this enormous aura, everyone felt that it was difficult to breathe. Their internal organs seemed to bear a huge pressure, and their backs seemed to be pressed by a huge mountain, making their bodies feel heavy and difficult to move. It's Elder Ouyang. Elder Ouyang has broken through. A returnance elder cried out. He was filled with joy. No, you shouldn't call him Elder Ouyang. You should call him the Spirit King. Ouyang Spirit King. Another returnance expert corrected him. He was also filled with joy. They were all on Ouyang Yangwen's side, so they were obviously extremely excited about his breakthrough. However, the expressions of the returnance elders on Xiongzhong's side all turned grave. Xiongzhong also roused from his cultivation. He stared at where Ouyang Yangwen cultivated through the heavy stone door. He was extremely stern as he clenched his fists tightly. Without saying anything else, he continued his cultivation. Xiongzhong was weaker than Ouyang Yangwen, but they were both late returnance experts after all. Even if he was weaker, there was a limit. Xiongzhong had not broken through after 9 years of seclusion, but he had also reached the peak of late returnance. He was only a step away from reciprocity. Now that Ouyang Yangwen had broken through before him, he needed to reach reciprocity as soon as possible. Congratulations on successfully reaching reciprocity, Elder Ouyang. From today onwards, the second Spirit King of our Sacred Spirit Hall has been born. The returnance elders on Ouyang Yangwen's side all congratulated him, as well as a few protectors at Receival. Ouyang Yangwen's white robes fluttered in the wind as he slowly emerged from his cultivation room. His rather feminine face was filled with uncontainable joy. However, he immediately frowned when he heard how the returnance elders addressed him. He said, "Just call me Elder Ouyang in the future. I'll continue to be an elder, not the Spirit King." Ouyang Yangwen shivered when he thought about the current Spirit King's strength that was on par with godhood. If it were any other Spirit King, even if he was at late reciprocity, Ouyang Yangwen would be extremely willing to become the second Spirit King of the Sacred Spirit Hall. However, even if he had reached reciprocity and could become the Spirit King according to the rules, he dared not accept the title at all. Although Ouyang Yangwen was extremely confident in his own strength, he only displayed it to the protectors and elders from the world of Forsaken Saints. Even if he was a dragon, he would need to remain coiled before the current Spirit King. The protectors and elders were all stunned by Ouyang Yangwen's words. They looked at each other before agreeing. They obviously understood Ouyang Yangwen's intentions. The current Spirit King was just too powerful. Even if a new reciprocity expert was born, they would not be bold enough to stand on the same level as the current Spirit King. This was the deterrence of the current Spirit King. Although the Spirit King had never oppressed them, they knew that the Spirit King was not a soft-hearted person. As a result, not only did the current Spirit King possess an extremely great deterrence to the protectors and elders, but he also made them feel a deep sense of dread and some respect. What's the situation in the other world? Has the divine hall blocking the tunnel been smashed open? Ouyang Yongwen asked in an unquestionable tone. Elder Ouyang, we've never stopped attacking the divine hall in the past 9 years, but it's all for naught. We haven't made any progress at all. The tunnel is still blocked. A returnant stood out. His tone was slightly different from before. Although Ouyang Yongwen did not dare to become the second Spirit King after reaching reciprocity due to his fear of the Spirit King, Ouyang Yongwen's status was equivalent to the Spirit Kings in the hearts of the Origin Realm experts. Ouyang Yongwen's face immediately turned cold when he heard that. He said softly, "Humph, you haven't even smashed through a divine hall in 9 years. What a bunch of trash." With that, Ouyang Yongwen left with a swing of his sleeve. The expressions of the protectors and elders on the second floor of the Sacred Spirit Hall all became very ugly after Ouyang Yongwen's departure. Although Ouyang Yongwen was more powerful than them, they were still Origin Realm experts after all. However, Ouyang Yongwen had called them trash without giving them any face, which made all of them feel resentful. This was because even the Spirit King had never insulted them like that in all the years he had reigned. Elder Ouyang sure is haughty. He's only just reached reciprocity, yet he's already looking down on us. Cheng Jingyun snorted coldly. It won't be long before Elder Xiong reaches reciprocity as well. Gongming, she said with a heavy voice. He was very displeased with Ouyang Yongwen as well. At the same time, he and Cheng Jingyun were both on Xiongzhong's side. Although the other receival protectors all felt resentful, they did not dare to express it directly like Gong Shiming and Cheng Jingyun. They could only suppress their resentment deep inside. At the peak of the World Mountain, a figure flew over from afar at lightning speed. Not only was the World Mountains the tallest mountain range in the world of Forsaken Saints, but they were also one of the most dangerous places in the world of Forsaken Saints. Even receival experts needed to be careful if they wanted to reach the top. However, the figure in the distance directly charged towards the peak of the mountain without any fear. Powerful bolts of lightning struck down along the way, and terrifying spatial cracks appeared as well. However, none of that could stop that person's speed at all. He either dodged them cleverly or casually unleashed a resplendent and powerful streak of sword light, killing all the dangers that came from all directions. A while later, the figure arrived at the top of the World Mountains. To no surprise, he was Ouyang Yongwen, who had just reached reciprocity. Ouyang Yongwen had always been prideful, but after suffering 2 setbacks on the Tian Yuan continent, he returned to the world of Forsaken Saints in a horrible shape in the end. If there were people on the Tian Yuan continent who were far more powerful than him, he would not have cared so much. However, there was no one on the Tian Yuan continent who could catch his attention. Ouyang Yongwen was unable to accept that he had been beaten to a pulp before all the elders and protectors from the world of Forsaken Saints. As a result, Ouyang Yongwen hated the people of the Tian Yuan continent very much. He was tempted to personally wipe out all the people from the Tian Yuan continent. Only then could he vent his anger. As a result, Ouyang Yongwen had rushed over as soon as he broke through. Chapter 1589. Ouyang Yongwen strode through the tunnel. Although he did not move quickly, he crossed a very large distance with each step. As he advanced, his presence steadily climbed. The sword in his hand erupted with a powerful sword chi, causing the entire tunnel to gently tremble. During these 9 years, the tunnel continued to strengthen. The tunnel was constantly being strengthened as well. The tunnel was now strong enough to support the passage of reciprocity experts. Even if reciprocity experts fought in there, it would be very difficult for them to destroy it. Ouyang Yongwen's presence became more and more powerful. It had already reached its peak. This was the place where he would display his peak strength for the first time since reaching reciprocity. Several Origin Realm experts from the world of Forsaken Saints constantly attacked the Supreme Divine Hall at the end of the tunnel. They immediately stopped when they sensed the tremendous presence behind them. They looked back at Ouyang Yongwen, who was getting closer and closer. Their eyes narrowed before they all clasped their hands and bowed at him. "All of you get out. Leave this to me," Ouyang Yongwen said coldly. His face was extremely sunken. He swung his sword, and immediately a huge streak of light several hundred meters long shot out with resplendent light. It heavily struck the supreme divine hall with devastating power. With a boom, the streak of light struck the supreme divine hall. It erupted with powerful ripples of energy that wreaked havoc in the tunnel, shaking up the entire tunnel and causing it to rumble heavily. The tunnel began to gently tremble. However, the supreme divine hall was so tough that even the Spirit King could only make the divine hall tremble when it was filled with energy. Although Ouyang Yangwen had reached reciprocity, the gap between him and the Spirit King was still as wide as a chasm. Aside from a deafening boom, the divine hall did not even shake when he struck it with such a great force. "I'd like to see just how much longer you can last," Ouyang Yangwen said coldly. Ouyang Yangwen said coldly. He was not discouraged at all. He stood in the tunnel proudly and began to constantly attack. He used his full strength every single time, as if he wanted to vent all his hatred for the Tian Yuan continent on the divine hall before him. All the origin realm experts of the Tian Yuan continent had gathered in the supreme divine hall. A snow-white fur floated in the center of them all. In the past few years, they had been comprehending the way of slaughter that Mo Tianyun had left behind in the past. However, after all these years, none of them had comprehended the way of slaughter. At this moment, none of them had comprehended the way of slaughter. The attacks the divine hall endured had increased by several times in a single moment. Although they were not as powerful as the Spirit King's attacks, they still made everyone in the divine hall stern. Is the world of Forsaken Saints about to launch a large-scale invasion? They must have gathered the power of many Origin Realm experts to unleash attacks like this. If they keep attacking like this, we'll be able to last much less time, Guido guessed. Guihai Dao said in a deep voice. In that instant, their consumption of quintessence power increased by several times. The tunnel is only so large. It can't hold too many people attacking at once. Perhaps someone from the world of Forsaken Saints has broken through to reciprocity, said Feng Xiaotian. Hearing this, everyone in the Supreme Divine Hall fell silent. Their faces became unprecedentedly solemn. We need to consume a mortal energy fruit every 3 or 4 years to recover origin energy. Now that the attacks have increased, we're consuming the fruit at a faster rate. If this continues, we won't be able to last much longer with the remaining mortal energy fruits. We can only place our hopes on Jianshan now. We hope that Jianshan can make it back before we break through the defensive line, or our world will be reduced to ashes, said Houston. Can Jianshan increase his strength to the point where he doesn't need to fear the Spirit King in such a short amount of time? Tianjin asked. He was filled with worry. He knew that Jianshan's talent was unprecedented, and his rate of cultivation was unprecedented. However, the gap between the origin realm and godhood was just too great. Could Jianshan do it in such a short amount of time? Jianshan and Shangwan Mu put on their clothes in the space created by the Yinyang Saint Rock and left the crater. Shangwan Mu directly returned to the hut and began to refine the energy within her, while Jianshan sat down in an empty spot 100 kilometers away. He began to refine the yin and yang qi he had just absorbed. In the past few years, Jianshan and Shangwan Mu have been absorbing the yin and yang qi from the yin-yang Saint Rock through dual cultivation. Afterwards, they began to refine the energy within them as quickly as they could before absorbing the yin and yang qi again. They repeated this cycle tirelessly because they knew that they could not last for much longer on the Tian Yuan continent. As a result, the two of them did everything they could to increase their strength. They did not relax at all. Several days later, Jianshan was the first to awaken. He had refined all the yin and yang qi he had absorbed, becoming a part of chaotic force. As a result, the chaotic Niden in his Dantian had grown slightly. Although Shangwan Mu's speed at refining energy had increased after reaching returnance, she was still unable to match up to Jianshan. She was still in seclusion, refining the energy in her body. I wonder how much time has passed on the Tian Yuan continent and what the situation is like. Jianshan slowly opened his eyes. He stared at the hazy sky in a daze as some worry appeared on his face. However, he knew that he could not return just yet. With his current strength, he would not be able to change anything even if he returned. It was better for him to spend more time on cultivation and become stronger as soon as possible. Only then would he be able to stop the world of forsaken saints. Jianshun gently sighed. He dismissed his thoughts and continued to cultivate. His soul fused with the azulate swords as he completely immersed himself in comprehending the way of the sword. He gradually entered a meditative state. As Jianshun entered a meditative state, a layer of white light gradually appeared around him, covering every inch of his body. At the same time, an extremely sharp sword intent radiated from him, permeating a radius of several dozen kilometers. As the sword intent permeated the area, the air and all the invisible energy in the surroundings suddenly froze before becoming sharp. Under the influence of the sword intent, they became strands of invisible sword chi. The space within a radius of dozens of miles had completely turned into a world filled with sword chi, a world that completely belonged to the sword. In the past few years, Jianshun's comprehension of the way of the sword had reached the peak of partial achievement of sword origin. He was about to reach major achievement. However, whenever he comprehended the way of the sword, a strand of sword intent would radiate out, enveloping a radius of several dozen kilometers. In order to not disturb Shangwan Mu, Er's cultivation, Jianshun chose to cultivate 100 kilometers away. However, at this moment, the sword chi around Jianshun increased by several times in a single instance. At the same time, the white light around Jianshun suddenly swelled as well, forming a pillar that reached into the sky. It shone with resplendent light, illuminating the entire world. At the same time, a supreme sword chi radiated from Jianshun in all directions. It ripped through space and destroyed the ground. Large swathes of spatial cracks appeared in the surrounding several dozen kilometers. The gray ground rapidly sank as well. As the ground sank, the dust that had vanished was not compressed. Instead, it had truly vanished. It was reduced to nothingness before the supreme sword chi, as if it had evaporated into thin air. In just a few seconds, a 10-meter thick layer of dust vanished from the surrounding several dozen kilometers. The only thing that remained the same was the 3-meter wide area where Jianshun sat. Jianshun's entire body was enveloped by a powerful pillar of light, such that it was impossible to see his figure from the outside. The pillar of light that pierced the sky and gave off powerful sword chi constantly changed. In the end, it gradually formed a divine sword that stood between the heavens and the earth. The illusory divine sword was so powerful that it could destroy the heavens and the earth. At the same time, Jianshun's soul strengthened at an unbelievable rate. At that moment, his comprehension of the way of the sword had finally reached the major achievement of sword origin. With the breakthrough in his comprehension of the way of the sword, his soul had improved as well. Jianshun felt his soul rapidly swell, developing from a child to an adult. At every moment, Jianshun could feel his soul strengthening, breaking through returnants like a hot knife through butter and directly reaching reciprocity. It did not stop there. After reaching reciprocity, the strength of his soul continued to climb. It rapidly strengthened as if it was endless. It directly broke through early reciprocity, mid-reciprocity, and only stopped when it reached late reciprocity. At that moment, Jianshun could clearly sense that his soul had become unprecedentedly powerful. He had never experienced such power before. If he took another small step forward, his soul would surpass the origin realm and formally reach godhood. Jianshun's strength had not reached the level where he could fend off the Spirit King during the 9 years of seclusion, but it had still increased drastically. First, his chaotic body had reached the 6th layer, and then his comprehension of the way of the sword had increased, reaching major achievement from mid-sword origin. Even his soul had increased from returnants to late reciprocity. Jianshun was able to put up a fight against late returnants experts when his chaotic body was at the 5th layer and his way of the sword was at mid-sword origin. Now, he was able to put up a fight against reciprocity experts. The white light around Jianshan gradually faded. Even the huge sword condensed from powerful sword chi slowly vanished. Jianshan reappeared in the surroundings. Jianshan opened his eyes and looked at the ground that had sunk 10 meters into the ground. His expression did not change at all. With a single step, he vanished, and when he reappeared, he was over 10 kilometers away. With just a few steps, Jianshan had traveled over 100 kilometers. Shangwan Mu stood before him in her violet dress. She had been waiting for him for quite some time already. She had reached late returnance as well. You've broken through? Shangwan Mu's enchanting eyes were filled with gentleness as she looked at Jianshan. Her voice was melodious and possessed a hint of charm, making people feel numb. Jianshan nodded. I've broken through slightly, but I'm still an extremely large distance away from the Spirit King. However, my chaotic body has reached the peak of the 6th layer, so I only need to absorb the energy from the Yin-Yang Saint Rock once more to reach the 7th layer. The 1st to 6th layer of the chaotic body can only be regarded as minor achievement. Once I reach the 7th layer, I'll have reached mid-chaotic body. At the same time, I need to comprehend the ways of the world to reach the 7th layer, which is why the gap between the 6th and 7th layers is unimaginably great. I just don't know what level my strength will reach once I reach the 7th layer. Will I be able to put up a fight against the Spirit King? Chapter 1590. Jianshan and Shangwan Mu arrived before the Yin-Yang Saint Rock again. They worked together and began to absorb the Yin and Yang Qi. Now that their strength had reached its peak, they were on the brink of breaking through. The Yin and Yang Qi they absorbed this time would be the power they needed to break through their bottlenecks. A few days later, Jianshan and Shangwan Mu had completely absorbed the Yin and Yang Qi. They left together to undergo the final refinement, turning the power they had just absorbed into their own. Jianshan also chose to cultivate 100 kilometers away. He sat on the barren land and slowly closed his eyes. The chaotic force within him immediately began to circulate rapidly. As he circulated his mental cultivation method, the Yin and Yang Qi he had just absorbed was quickly assimilated by the chaotic force. As a result, the chaotic force in his dantian became more abundant. When all the Yin and Yang Qi in Jianshan's body was refined into chaotic force, his fist-sized chaotic Niden finally exceeded its limits. It exploded loudly, and the chaotic force within the Niden immediately surged out like a flood. It filled Jianshan's entire body in a single instance. In just a short moment, Jianshan's entire body was filled with powerful chaotic force. The entire chaotic Niden in his dantian had been converted into surging chaotic force as well. Jianshan began to tremble violently. His face became extremely pale in a single instance. His forehead became covered with a layer of sweat as his face was filled with pain. His body began to swell like an inflated balloon, rapidly expanding. In just a few seconds, he had become a 10-meter-tall giant. Every time he broke through to the chaotic body, he would have to endure excruciating pain that no ordinary person could endure. This time was no exception. At the same time, going from the 6th layer to the 7th layer was a huge leap. The increase in strength was so great that it could not be compared to going from the 5th layer to the 6th layer. This was because reaching the 7th layer meant that he had reached the partial achievement of the chaotic body. It was not like the previous 6 layers, where he had only reached minor achievement. As a result, the pain from reaching the 7th layer this time was far greater than before. Jianshan trembled even more violently. He constantly clenched his teeth as he clenched his fists tightly. The intense pain almost made him faint. Even his consciousness became rather blurry. Jianshan knew that this was an extremely crucial moment. He suddenly bit down on the tip of his tongue, biting off a third of it. Immediately, a heart-wrenching pain filled his heart. However, not only did the pain fail to make him faint, but it even cleared up his blurred consciousness. He immediately began to circulate his cultivation method. Tremendous chaotic force rampaged, through Jinshin's body like a runaway horse. It destroyed all his vitality in a frenzy. His organs had all shattered, all his meridians had shattered, and all his bones had shattered. Even his flesh had become heavily injured from the chaotic force. Blood flowed out of all his pores, causing him to become covered in blood. It was a horrible sight. Jianshan circulated his chaotic force cultivation method as he did everything he could to heal his body and heal his wounds. He did not use the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force. Instead, he relied on the powerful regeneration of the chaotic body. Jinshin's chaotic body rapidly recovered, but before the process was complete, it was destroyed once again. This cycle repeated over and over again. Jinshin's chaotic body constantly struggled as it was repaired and destroyed. However, every time it was destroyed and repaired, Jinshin's chaotic body would become slightly stronger. It was not just his flesh and blood. Even his organs, countless meridians, and all his bones would strengthen. As his body gradually strengthened, the pain Jinshin endured gradually lessened. The chaotic force that rampaged through his body was slowly compressed, becoming even more powerful. Every strand of chaotic force that was compressed reduced the rampaging power in Jinshin's body slightly. As the chaotic force decreased, Jinshin's body that had swelled to 10 meters slowly returned to normal. At this moment, Jinshin could clearly sense the strengthening of his chaotic force. He could clearly sense the increase in his strength. He was getting closer and closer to the 7th layer of the chaotic body. However, it was also at this moment that Jinshin felt a resistance suddenly appear. The moment the resistance appeared, the chaotic force within him stopped growing, and his progress towards the 7th layer came to a halt. To reach the 7th layer of the chaotic body, one needs to comprehend ways. I've already comprehended them, and I've even taken a small step forward. Today, I'll use my way of the sword as the key to open the door to the 7th layer. Jinshin's determined voice echoed through his head. He fused his will with the way of the sword, charging towards the resistance with an unstoppable force with his comprehension of the way of the sword. Master, we need to strip away your comprehension of the mysteries of the world on the Tianyuan continent. You need to focus on paving the way to the 7th layer with the way of the sword. If you leave behind the mysteries of the world on the Tianyuan continent, it will affect your future cultivation. At this moment, the voices of the sword spirits rang out in Jinshin's head. Afterward, Ziying and Qing Sua's illusionary figures appeared in Jinshin's consciousness out of nowhere. They were stern. Master, we still haven't recovered. With the current strength of Master's soul, we can't forcefully strip away Master's comprehension of the mysteries of the world. We need Master to cooperate with us and assist us. That's the only way to succeed, Ziying said. Jinshin did not hesitate at all when he heard that. He split his attention and continued to charge towards the 7th layer while cooperating with the sword spirits. He was willing to strip away his comprehension of the mysteries of the world. In the past, when Jinshin's comprehension of the mysteries of the world was about to reach the level of the Holy Emperor, he had been forcefully interrupted by the sword spirits. From then on, Jinshin knew that he needed to give up on his comprehension of the mysteries of the world. It was also because of this that his strength had always been increasing, but his comprehension of the mysteries of the world remained at the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. He never possessed the ability to rip open space and create space gates like the Holy Emperor, which made it extremely difficult for him to travel. He needed to borrow the strength of others until he successfully forged the azulate swords. Jinshin had an almost blind trust in the sword spirits. In his heart, Ziying and Qing Sua were not just sword spirits. They were also his saviors and masters. Many things on his path of cultivation had been taught to him by the sword spirits, so he did not hesitate at all when the sword spirits told him to give up on his comprehension of the mysteries of the world. With Jinshin's full cooperation and the sword spirits' guidance, it was obviously not difficult for him to strip away his comprehension of the mysteries of the world at the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler with his soul at late reciprocity. Very soon, Jinshin felt like he had forgotten something in his consciousness. His comprehension of the mysteries of the world had been stripped away by the sword spirits. Without the existence of the mysteries of the world, Jianshun did not feel any discomfort at all. Instead, he felt like his soul had become unprecedentedly clear. This feeling seemed to make it much easier for him to comprehend the way of the sword in the future. At the same time, Jianshun used the way of the sword as a key and paved a path for himself. He had finally broken through to the 7th layer of the chaotic body, formally reaching mid-chaotic body. The fist-sized chaotic Niden in his dantian had vanished. It had been replaced by a bean-sized Niden. His body had returned to its normal size as well. All the blood that flowed out had been absorbed by him, returning to his body. His chaotic body had been strengthened once again. Jianshun even felt like he could endure the full-powered attacks of Receival experts just by standing there without dodging or using any defensive measures. Even the full-powered attacks of Receival experts would not be able to harm his chaotic body at all.